We bout to go get them. They doubting my skills, watch me flow in them. Yeah, you be so venom. Let the pressure get hot, I'm a cold winner. They keep doubting my skills, watch me flow in them. Put the biggest in the yard, I'ma go get them. Yeah, the pressure been building, I'm about to fill it up. You playing the villain, I'm about to end your luck. Go get them, go get them. I'm about to go get them, go get them.
Are you ready for more Fast and Furious action? Welcome to the second qualifying final of the Fortnite Reload Elite Series. I'm Frankie Ward and I am so excited because this might not be the start of something new. We started it back in February, but we do have someone new on the desk today and I'm delighted to reveal it's Coach Harry. And I've brought Harry and Levin together because they had a bit of a dispute over a podcast. Harry, do you want to tell your side of the story?
Just, Levin doesn't want me on it anymore, so
okay.
So hopefully this brings us back together and I can return to the podcast.
Levin?
Look, one thing I will say, despite our differences when it comes to our podcast, Harry is one of the best minds in Fortnite. So it's a pleasure to have you here, my friend. And for anyone watching, you're going to learn a lot from this guy. So tap in.
I already have. I've learnt more from Harry in one rehearsal than I have from the rest of you lot in 3, going on 4 years. So welcome to the show, Harry. Now, before we get into Res, as no one else is calling it, let's talk about FNCS because tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central European time, that's 9 a.m. if you're in the UK like me, Levin and Harry, you can get your hands on tickets for the FNCS Major 1 Summit. It's not being held in Paris, guys. It's being held in Dusseldorf at the PSD Bank Dome. That's not an arena, that is a dome. So keep your eyes on the FN Competitive social accounts, so FN Competitive on Twitter, for example, to get the information you need to know as to how to secure those tickets. We cannot wait to see you there. Levin, have you got a big speech planned?
Oh, I don't know, guys. You're just going to have to buy a ticket and then show up and see.
We are. Now, Harry, I know you're new to this thing, but do you think you could break down the format for us? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's pretty much like any FNCS we've had in the past year, right? You have some opens, you go from the opens to a play-ins, and then the top 80 go into to 4 heats, and then each top 5 from each heat go to a finals. And what we're all playing for here is they're playing for a spot at the LAN to fight all the best teams in the world, to be honest. And I'm excited to see who can come out on top.
Me too. I'm wondering if we're going to see some lesser known names slip through. And we've already got some banging duos qualified. Yes, Peterbot did qualify last time. But I'm sure he'll be playing tonight, as will the guys who won our qualifying final last time, Sharkantini, because if you take a look at the prize money, even though they've already got their spot at the LAN Championships, they've also got prize pools to pay for. So they want to keep together as a duo. This is the thing. All of the duos that are qualified can keep competing for this prize pool, Levin, and keep their spot unless they decide to go their separate ways, in which case they have to qualify again.
Yeah, that wouldn't be ideal. But like you said, big money up for grabs. Again, more and more people trying to prove that they are the best reload team. And so it's going to be an exciting day today.
It really is. And it was an interesting start to the first qualifying finals because we didn't necessarily see the duos we expected to come fierce straight out the gate, do the best. And actually, if we look at the stats of the teams that got the most early game eliminations, 11, they weren't reflective of the teams that got the top 5 placement on the leaderboard.
Yeah, look, some of these guys, oh, actually, that's not true. Champion Flixie did get 5th, but the teams that qualified for the actual EWC LAN were not the ones that were super aggressive early on, right? There wasn't that direct correlation, which I think some people were expecting, right? When the first 2 games happened, Harry, it was slow. People were thinking, wait, this is reload, right? Why are people not being super aggressive? They can reload. And I think after game 3, people realized, wait, we can do that. And so the aggression picked up, but it wasn't necessarily the key to success. I think what people need to understand about reload is similar to Battle Royale. A lot of the skill gap is in your ability to make it to endgame super stacked and then having clean endgames, right? And having the right endgame fundamentals. And so if you're a team like Champion Flixie, just because their super aggression didn't lead to them qualifying, it doesn't mean that it can't, right? I think we're going to continue to see these guys be super aggressive. It plays into their strength. They're 2 of the best fighters in this lobby. And they're 2 people, you just don't want to mess with them, really. Like, you don't want to run into these guys if they're in a bad mood because they will sort you out.
No, I mean, it's one of those teams that when you are looking at the map and you're thinking, who do we want to avoid? Champion Flixie are the first team on your mind, right? They're 2 of the best fighters on the region, and when it comes to reload, you'd expect them to be towards the top, and to only get 6th place wasn't really what they expected. Had a really slow start, to be honest, but I don't think that's really going to affect them too much. They're going into today with probably a similar playstyle, even though Slurpee isn't as contested as it was last time. They'll be aggressive when they need to. They'll get the loot they want to get, and what I hope to see is some more of their pop-off moments that we know they can do.
Yeah, we definitely want to see that and more. So let's head over to Taco and Takata to see who they've got their eyes on.
Reload Elite Series finals, but at the end of the day, we've got some very familiar faces that are still looking to heat up today's competition. And one duo that I have to mention, it's going to be Darm and Deemish. We saw them in the first Reload Elite Series finals. Things didn't necessarily pan out in their favor, though. They were, unfortunately, not able to hit their qual for the LAN finals in that first series. But Takata, things can change. They've also switched up their drop map position. They're no longer going to be headed towards that north side of Slurpee Swamp, instead taking their luck over to Fort Crumpet, but it was a nail-biter heats for them. They barely skirted through with an 8th game performance of a lifetime to be here tonight, and so things are really on the line right now.
Yeah, I mean, they got 9th place in the previous finals, and now you said things switch up quickly. It was looking like they were going to be contested at Fort Crumpet, but they are now uncontested, and honestly, I think things are looking bright. They got the motivation from a solid performance in the last qualifier finals, but now, they want to get that top 3. They want to make it to that $2.5 million land.
Obviously, and with the great coach behind us, Sven behind them, I'm sure anything is possible, but they're not going to be the only ones in today's competition. So let's head on back over to Frankie, Levin, and Harry.
Shout out to Sven. We love him here on the desk. But let's talk about what's going to be happening in terms of strategies and what we're expecting. Because if we look back to our first qualifying final back in February 11, we saw variations on strategies when it came to the end game and the height situation.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I just said earlier, right? The key sort of skill gap in Reload right now is just your ability to have successful end games. And I think the key way is going to be being aggressive towards playing for height, right? We're seeing success come from teams on height. But like you said, there were plenty of different approaches to it, right? And Harry, you're obviously a coach. You've seen and prepared some teams to play in these types of lobbies. Like, what of the different approaches you've seen be? Because for me, I was shocked to see Twek and Midro looking as experienced as they did last weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, we're looking at game 1 here, which they ended up winning the first of 2, and the first thing you've got to notice is the zone, right? When it falls far like this, teams are going to have less shockwave. It's going to be easier to hold height, and as this is one of the most stable heights we saw in the finals last time around, and the next thing is obviously the early connection, and then the pressure towards second height and tracking the med misters who at some point will be looking to take height with a shockwave if they can. And we compare it to game 2, probably the most chaotic game we had, and as you can see, it's already starting out really chaotic with teams fighting towards the high ground. ground. And when they set up this ulti height position, you can see they don't have exact track on who potentially is looking up, who might be med misting. And as you can see, because their connection point wasn't also that strong as well, and the zone was towards Slurpee and more teams had shockwaves, they get double chopped out instantly. Podesai and Asa ended up taking height and fighting Flixie and Chap towards it. And even with all this chaos happening, another team, Vico and Malabuka, end up capitalizing on their mistakes, the fact that no one's able to set up height correctly and actually end up taking height from them. And this wasn't even the end of it. Teeny and Shark ended up taking it off them afterwards. And to be honest, when you are looking to take height in reload, it is one of those things you have to take so much into consideration with who's in the lobby and the zone and everything towards those things. And to be honest, we're going to see loads of action. I'm going to be shocked if we don't see pretty much the same amount of messiness towards height today.
Levin, let's look at some numbers from Sky and Scroll. They're a duo that unfortunately didn't make it to the lobby tonight, but they did place second last time. What kind of approach did they take to find most of their success?
Yeah, I think the important learning from these two was that when you think of Sky and Scroll, they're not traditionally a height team, right? I think a lot of people look at their mid-ground and low-ground prowess, but even they understood that height is key to success in these lobbies. And so they spent 5 minutes in total on height in the first qualifier, which was the fourth most of any team in the lobby, and they went for it in half of their games. The important thing I think most people can take away from these guys is, again, even if you aren't a team that feels comfortable playing for height early, like sort of how Harry explained, you have to understand that there will come a time where you have to play it, right? You see how in this game, they still kept 3 shockwaves ready right till the end so that they were prepared to go up for it. And I think that in itself just shows no matter what type of team you are, there's gonna come a time where height has to be played in these lobbies.
Especially if you're a team like Shark and Teeny, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Harry, I think this is my favorite team when it comes to watching how they play height in these lobbies personally.
I mean, you look, if you want to learn how to play an aggressive height where you're dropping down on teams, you're box fighting them, this is Teeny and Shark. Even though they can play, the more safe way, playing ulti height, just pressuring teams, tracking the teams who might look to shockwave up, they have the capabilities. We all know that. 2 of the best mechanical players, fighters on the region, and they can drop down on anyone. They can get huge elimination games. Just on Friday, they got a 24 elimination win in the heats, and that should be some of the top teams in the region, and they're still able to drop that high amount of elims. And to be honest, if they're not taking height, something's gone wrong off spawn. Maybe they've ended up getting into too many aggressive situations, which they didn't want to do. As you didn't see them on the elimination leaderboard, they weren't actually wanting to be aggressive. So maybe with the shackles off, we'll see a little bit even more from them, even though they won last time.
Yeah, I think that's the real scary thing. The shackles are off, right? They ain't got that pressure of having to qualify. They got the job done already. And so now it's like, we can just play our game. We can just have fun with it. If Shark and Teeny are feeling like, yeah, we just want to frag out this game, they're going to do that, and everyone else in the lobby is at risk.
Swizzy and Pixie at risk, because Harry, I know they're a duo that you will be particularly looking to get success tonight, and there's a good reason why. These are some of the best players in the world.
You're talking about first and second place at global championships. You're talking about 2 of the best height players we have in the world, not only on EU. They were able to dominate the global stage and put them together, and we saw what they could do in heats. Yes, maybe it was a bit messy at times. Things didn't go exactly how they wanted. 8 out of 8 games they were on high ground. In 8 out of 8 of those games, it was early high ground. It's something you don't see a lot of teams wanting to do. So if they can get out of their contested situation at Stilt Town, they can get to off-sport, they can get to endgame even. And when they get to endgame, they can boss the lobby. They're going to dominate. And I would be shocked if they don't go into a lot of these endgames as the team who's looking most likely to win.
Yeah, I think these guys have a lot of pressure on them, right? You mentioned how they approached it in heats. They were on it every single game, but you're right. There were a lot of messy height games for them, even when they would take things early. I want to see improvement from them. I think that's the big thing with following Swizzy and Pixie right now. We want to see more improvement. A team I'm looking at, right, as a team that has lots of pressure on them, or at least a team that I'm really watching to see how they fare today, is definitely going to have to be Vico Malabuka, right? In the first qualifier, they came in as big favorites and a team that was performing incredibly well, but they were contested by iDrop and Marius, as well as Flixie and Chap, who are in the POI as well. And, I made a lot of fun of Resub, right? Because Resub, we wouldn't have predicted them to actually come out on top of it. And I said, I just don't know how that's going to go when you're fighting iDrop and Marius every single game. And it didn't go too well a lot of the time. This time around, you ain't got to worry about that, Frankie. They can chill. They can enjoy the luxuries of off-spawn at Slurpee, hopefully, right? As long as Flixie and Chap don't want to mess around with them too much. And with that being the case, you expect these guys to qualify today, Harry. Like, if these guys aren't to qualify today, I think there'll be big questions asked of what went wrong. Everything is set up for them to do incredibly well.
Uncontested are the best landing spot on the map. How can it go wrong, to be honest? Only if, they may be upset, Flixie and Chap, the team next to them. If both teams are doing well and they're at the top of the leaderboard, it'll be a nice chill time at Slurpee. But if things go wrong, we're going to see action.
Can I just say, no one has ever in the history of Fortnite described Vico as chill?
Yeah.
That's one of the weirdest things I've ever heard on this show. But I do want to ask you guys about the Chap and Flixie situation, because yes, Slurpee Swamp, it's got plenty of loot for all. And yeah, we consider this like a split drop as opposed to them contesting each other. However, Harry, do you think we could see them turn on each other if needs must?
Oh, 100%. There's no way we go 8 out of 8 games, them being nice neighbors, just looting their own loot. We're going to see action. We're going to see fights, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Said it best. That's what he does, eh? That's why we want him on the broadcast, eh?
Who wins? Who wins in that 2v2, Levin?
I mean, I don't think it's a 2v2. I think we're going to see about 3 or 4 different teams, like what happened last time, right? I think it'll be unlikely that it's just those two in Slurpee in these games.
Well, luckily, it's just 2 in the commentary box tonight. No fighting there because it's Taco and Takata. Let's head over for game 1.
Thank you guys so much. And hey, no fights between us, Takata, but we can't say the same for these players that are participating in this second qual of the Reload Elite Series finals. We know just how quickly the lobby can definitely heat up, and with 8 matches to work through, anything and everything will be able to take place throughout this competition.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Looking at the drop map, there's 2 separate teams contesting each other north of Slurpee. There's another south of Slurpee. And we had an interesting kind of last-minute mix-up. Cringe and Volko decided, hey, the #1 team had an uncontested drop spot, Shark and Teeny. Let's go contest them. It's, I don't know, what do you think of that, Taco?
If I speak, I don't know that it's going to end too well. I can't pull any punches here, Takata, because realistically, Shark and Teeny have been very vocal on socials, on streams. They are not shy of admitting, hey, if you try to step to our turf, we are willing to take that fight the distance. So we'll see what happens here in game 1.
Good news is you don't have to wait long. Look, that shows confidence, in my opinion. Will they commit to it, though? Is what I'm thinking, is I don't see Dirty Docs actually fully contested, so maybe they switched it up last minute, but the big question is to where?
That'll be something that everyone else in the lobby has to worry about, but it really shouldn't come as a big surprise seeing Shark and Teeny have all of Dirty Dogs exclusively to themselves. It is such a bold maneuver to try and challenge a team that is already locked in their position at the EWC LAN Finals. So for Shark, Teeny, world's their oyster, at least in game 1. But we'll have to see what happens to Kurama here now as Teeny, Shark immediately looking for the collapse. They recognize that this is a solo. Kurama just trying to create some distance now, but even on the retreat, Shark, Teeny, they have no issues chasing this one down.
Yeah, I mean, having already confirmed a spot in that $2.5 million LAN, they can play as aggressive as they want. If already they were playing aggressive in the last finals, playing aggressive height, playing aggressive in the early mid game, they're just gonna amplify that this time around. And as this pursuit continues, I did see on the feed Malibuka went down, Pixie went down. I'm hoping those fights haven't fully concluded yet, but as Kurama gets picked up, Shark's now going to disengage and regroup with Teeny, as they might even have begun another hunt.
Well, here trying to see what he can do to escape, but Vico, Kurama, we're just gonna have to wait and see. You should be able to touch down now because it's all emphasis onto Vico here. Teeny and Shark want to see if they can lock in yet another elimination, but it's almost a trade out. Fortunately, Shark, a little bit of suppressive fire there, is going to be able to back up Teeny, but they are going to need to take some time now to refarm a little bit of materials. They didn't actually get off to a really strong start with their mat count because they just went for the immediate eliminations, but 6 points to kick things off. No real shocker, though. We knew that this duo was going to be scrappy. We also knew that for Vico and Malabuka, they were probably going to encounter their fair share of last-minute surprises. Even though it's the first lobby, Takata, I still think anything is wide open here.
I know, it was looking like a ranked reload match. They just picked up some weapons and started pushing everyone around them, but we can see what's happening now with Brax and Glove Sheet. Looks like they have the upper hand in this engagement. One elimination on the board as well. Onto Malabuka. Not a good look at Slurpee so far.
Things are just getting a little bit scuffed, and that was the issue for Vico and Malabuka in the first Split Elite Series. But Vico, he wants to see if he can get a little bit of revenge now for his duo, or at least be able to force back everyone that's trying to challenge them here in Slurpee Swamp. They want control. They want the opportunity to properly loot things up, but they also need to get some points on the board. They're not trying to miss out after making it to the secondary qual now for the Reload Elite Series Finals. But Vico, still no luck with the opening shots. A lot of wiggle room inside of Slurpee, a lot of delay too, because there's just so much mobility that the shockwaves, crash pads, everything in between, and you don't want to be caught off guard or caught in the middle of a third-party surprise contest.
That you don't, Kurama. Not having the best
touch
day.
down.
I think that's the third time he's been eliminated so far. Vico Malabuka gonna be taking it this time around as they get an elevated position now. Refarming a bit of mats, but yeah, this is tough.
And there's nothing worse for Kurama and Akira than knowing that Kurama, he's just trying to see if he can even make it down from the reboot. At least get your feet on the ground. Maybe you can pick up a little bit of momentum after the fact, but it's like a beacon to every other team in the vicinity. Hey, I'm weak, I need help, and that's why Akira trying to draw a little bit of pressure back towards his direction, but Kurama in shambles, Akira being collapsed on now by both Vico and Malabuka. Expect that to go the direction of Vico and Malabuka. Sure enough, in the elimination feed, they are able to capitalize on that one, but Yapko and Panzer, this is actually going to be their first qual, and they're hoping to go big or go home with their first shot into things.
Yeah, they were originally triple conned here in Steamy Stacks, but now they're just up against Truly and Zynox, so we can see a quick replay back at Slurpee, what actually went down. I mean, Akira Kurama, they were not only leading their heats, they dominated them with over 170 point lead, so now to start the day off a little rough, hopefully they can find time to lock in. Darm and Beamish, though, we were kind of hyping him up earlier. Uncontested now, 9th place in the Qualifier 1 finals. Unable to kind of secure that land spot this time around, though. We'll see if that changes.
And they've got the luxury of being uncontested at Fort Crumpet, but they're still trying to be cognizant of some of the other duos lingering nearby. Glubshi kind of trailing them. They're just going to have to basically keep tabs on teams that are looking to rotate a little bit after the fact. But if you're able to confirm a decent position just inside Edge's zone and be able to follow the direction of where these zone pools are headed and see whether or not they'll even have the opportunity to maybe pick off any players that might still be looking for those early reboots, it's just whoever is the first victim usually remains the victim throughout the process. And Chat Flixie kind of on the receiving end of things right now. Gonzo and Pradaj are going to get a little bit scrappy here now, but they'll just keep an eye out for Lucia and Howley. Also doing a great job, I think, at just making space.
Yeah, nothing too aggressive happening right now. You got to hope at this point they've secured enough mats, enough loot. Going down in the mid game is much worse than the start, so Chino and Pablo kind of wait in this zone out.
But they've got tabs on Truly and Zynox in the distance. And I think Truly and Zynox are an interesting duo because a little bit of noble grinders. They've definitely been trying to get the reps in and their performance in their heats. I mean, they finished first, Takata, so I think that we could potentially be seeing, you know, the surfacing of a Dark Horse competitor here, but knowing that they are contested at Steamy Stacks with Yapko Panzer, it seems like they're opting more for the split POI intentions, but have to wait and see what happens with them later on here as Volko Cringe gonna invest a little bit more time inside the storm. Those early tick damages, nothing to really be too pressed over, and they want to make sure that they have a healthy material count before they start rotating in.
Yeah, so now they're on the west side of the map. I'm curious to where they actually landed exactly, but no elims on the board. You know, they're getting the loot up there. Not ideal, but could be significantly worse, so actually looking quite nice.
It's decent, but Storm Sickness can always be in the back of your mind. Even though it's so early on and it's not a whole lot of tick damage, it still racks up eventually, as now Chap, Flixie, maybe having to reconsider just whether or not they actually want to remain friendly neighbors with Gonzo and Predage or not, who's going to strike first, because one thing that has been a bit of a reoccurring theme inside of the Reload Elite Series finals, Takata, is that the end games are typically pretty stacked, and getting into the placement points is always so difficult because we're moving towards, you know, like 7th zone when the reboots are first getting disabled, and yet we've still got at least 18 teams typically remaining in the lobby. That was frequently happening throughout the course of every individual group's heats. And so when you take, you know, the best players' performances from those heats and now add them all into one set lobby finals, you have to anticipate that it's going to be more or less a lot of the same.
Yeah, I mean, especially the first games of the day, they are a bit slower and more stacked in that end game. So we'll see if that trend kind of continues on here. Prax and Glubchi in a bit of a potentially tough rotate depending on whether zone closes, but a beautiful pull. A 6th zone comes to a close. A reminder that reboots do disable when that 7th zone appears, so they've got a bit of time, but you got to start thinking about that now in the back of your mind.
Most of these players just going to be kind of following the direction of the supply drops for those initial hints for where the zone might be pulling, but Glubshi, Prax, they boxed up, they found a little bit of space. Things are relatively wide open currently, Takata, and you just never want to be the team that gets lobbied first, but you never know. I mean, you wait too long to start rotating, you become a victim of teams that clearly want to just take advantage of opening a route in front of them, or maybe they want to like overtake the space that you've already tried to claim because they just feel like it's a slightly better position. I could just tell that everyone a bit hesitant to be the first one to strike, but eventually sparks are going to have to fly.
100%. As we do have 45 seconds left till the zone closes. 2 out of our 3 duos that qualified in the first qualifier finals are competing here today. Chino and Pablo, I'm curious to see how they end up playing this one out. They're also uncontested on the west, but Bimbo is going to get caught off now. You talked about Storm Sickness. Hopefully they weren't there too long because they're going to be feeling it later if they make it that far.
But check out one of our real powerhouse duos, Shark and Teeny, and they definitely look very healthy heading into some of these future zones. Just a few more moments now until reboots are officially disabled, and that's where you can start to anticipate that a lot of the action is going to begin kicking off, because it's finally the moment where teams know that they'll actually have a real opportunity to try and basically play spoiler to anybody else's run here in this first lobby. But Teeny, Shark, the main thing I'm going to keep an eye out for is how long they're actually able to retain the shockwave grenades. Shockwaves have just made height so difficult to control because everything just seems like it gets destroyed when you have no way of telling which direction players are going to come flying into your box. And the fact of the matter is, the shockwave grenades are just devastating to builds in general.
They really are. Good news is, this already happened in the last finals, but compared to earlier on, there's only 4 total shockwaves you can carry now, as you can see in Malibuca's inventory. I got high hopes for this duo, Taco. I'm right in the same boat Levin is here. I want to see them have a big performance in these finals. And it all starts in the first game. They're stacked. They've got mats. So let's see if they can make it happen.
They're trying to raise their own stock even, especially after what happened in the first Little League Series finals they participated in. But Volko, Cringe, they look like they've got some intentions of their own accord as teams start navigating forward, trying to head towards that next front side of zone. If you're a little bit one step behind, you never know. They're going to stick a little bit more committed towards this low ground terrain for the time being. But Vico, he's been fully cracked. He's going to have to take a moment to actually replenish his shields. Same case scenario for other teams like Chino and Pablo. But at least one slurp juice remains. They'll be able to start trekking forward now. And it looks like they're beating the rest of the lobby to it.
Yeah, 34 players still up. This is going to be a tough one, as now Chino, Pablo hold zone. We'll see how Height ends up playing. We talked about potential contenders. Shark and Teeny, 7 out of 8 matches in the finals were on Height. But Swizzy and Pixie, 8 out of 8 games in the heats. So we'll see how aggressive these players end up getting. But so far, Shark and Teeny, at no surprise, are holding on to Height.
And it's a big investment from Shark and Teeny too. So much metal as they tarp overhead. Now to begin, a little bit of connection sequences here. Panzer from overhead. It's dangerous work when you use that Flowberry Fizz and the Shockwaves or the Flowberry plus the crash pads. But the longer you're in the airspace, the more of a target you might just become. Vico and Malibuca from that mid-ground terrain. It's a tough scenario for them. They know that they've got teams directly underneath them, but just pause for a moment. They might be able to find elimination. Instead, it's just going to be all about maintaining their space.
Yeah, and doing a beautiful job of it so far. I mean, to reiterate what Harry was saying, is that it's not just about the game plan of Height, the mobility, the items. It's also about the duos in the lobby. If you know Shark and Teeny in the lobby, you know there's a good chance that that's them on Height so early on, using all the metal, doing what they can to hold on. But what this team excels in is not only holding Height, but playing aggressive with it and finding those eliminations. So I'm excited to see that happen shortly on the low ground, though. Chino picking up another one. Now 3 total eliminations racked up.
But it might have come at a cost here. Pablo is incredibly injured right now. It's all going to come down to Chino being able to create a little bit of space. They at least have 2 of those Medmis grenades at their disposal, but at the same time, do you have a moment to breathe when you have so many layers potentially looking to collapse overhead, players that are scrambling to drop to that ultimate low ground because they don't want to risk getting caught out inside of some of the smothering that's happening inside of this mid-ground. Shark and Teeny just applying so much pressure to these teams underneath them, and Chat Flixie, they're going to begin trying to break their way forward. Be stuck for a moment though, lingering a little bit towards that backside of zone, but Chino, Pablo, they are still looking to claim that frontside low position. They want it so badly, and Kashi, Byron, if they're not careful, they're gonna have to tango with both Pablo and Chino. In fact, they might not even leave them an option here because Chino and Pablo, they want to claim as much space as they can in the low ground. Chat Flixie now going to be the ones to try and overtake on Height. Shark's going to be the first to fall here as Chat Flixie, they might have actually done it. Elimination fully claimed now onto Shark. That's going to send Teeny packing.
This is where the pace picks up as well now. Chaos unfolding as duos start running low on mats, forcing to Medmist in zone, forcing to pop those heals, and with Height overthrown, now second, getting much more pressure as Chino loses his teammate. Chap doing what he can to continue applying that pressure on second Height, but Malibuca in the zone, forced to launch himself back in. Demon Storm holding low as Chino goes down.
most tragic shockwave. You just never know what build you're breaking into. The players on the other end of them just might be a little bit more prepared for it. But Malabuka as a solo now, going to be able to break into the starting point, at least 4 placement points here. But Flixie and Chap have firm control of the high ground, but they don't have that many materials to work with here, Takada. So I think that they've really got to try and find a refresh, a chance to drop down for Strokey and Bevies lurking in the low ground. Malabuka, though, with a big elimination onto Pradaj. That's the refresh he needed. The Siphon going to buy him a little bit of a lifeline here as Yapko, Panzer still trying to tarp their way forward, but Malabuka will be claimed. It's Yapko and Panzer who have now taken over the mid ground, but they'll be forced to draw ultimate low. Shockwave just breaking through all these builds.
This zone is continue to ride the edge of the mountain. Incredibly tough for anybody on low to mid, but Yapko manages to pick up Strokey as he continues forward. Bevies as a solo picks up Yapko. There's now just 4 players standing. Chap and Flixie have to drop down, and they do it, securing the victory for game 1.
The real battle was won for Chap and Flixie the moment that they were able to overthrow Shark and Teeny on height. That zone pool was just so vicious for the rest of the lobby. It essentially cannibalized itself because Chap, Flixie, they're putting down so much overhead pressure. Frankie, Levin, Harry, what have y'all got to say?
As the zone pulled down the hill, so did the fortunes of many of the duos in that lobby. But Chap and Flixie were able to capitalize, Levin.
Yeah, really impressed by their approach in that game. Harry, at the start, we talked about how they were one of the more aggressive teams, and one of their biggest problems was in endgames, it wasn't as clean, right? They struggled to have a lot of clean endgames last time around. This time around, the height take their, standard stuff from what we're seeing in the reload meta, right? As far as playing deep in the storm, the med mist, going all the way up on height with the shockwave and the fizz. Teeny and Shark had no clue where they were coming from, so they just dropped down and then they can just hold height. Awkward zones for the rest of the lobby, and so they're able to just hold on and win the game cleanly.
Absolutely. You see, as we're seeing here, they've got the med mist there. They're looking to try and utilize it in an aggressive way because a lot of teams just end up using it just to, heal up. But when you can use it to chop out height, then retake it afterwards. And Shark and Teeny didn't know what was going on. They were dropping down onto second height trying to fight them. And it was a team all the way deep in Storm. Chap and Flixie just able to take from there. And as you said, the zone's pulling off the map. No one's got shockwaves left to even be able to take it off them. And it was just easy pickings from there, picking off players one by one till it's an easy win, all in the ocean.
I mean, it was a masterclass by these guys because especially when that zone pulled away, I was just like, well, no one can get to Teeny and Shark now. There's just too much distance. So the fact that those guys were able to pull it off is quite something. And Harry, I'm guessing it played into their game plan in a way. They know that Shark and Teeny are going to be going for their height. So all they need to do really is bide their time and just wait for the right moment.
Yeah, if you're looking to win games and you want to qualify to the land, you're going to have to take height at some point. You're going to have to figure out whatever way it is, whether it's you're taking it early like Teeny and Shark, or you're waiting till they make a mess up and they slip up, and that's what happened there, and they capitalized and they got the reward from it.
Well, let me tell you something, boys. Shark and Teeny, they're already qualified, and as we saw in that lobby, they are not pulling their punches. We'll see who they're going to be hitting up in game number 2, but that's coming after the break.
If you miss, you gon' regret it. Before you crawl, know I'm running it all. I'm built up like a pharaoh, now they praying that I fall. Through shadows, been burning through these battles. No weakness in my body, need to know you better ask somebody. get known. Me off the top, no way. I came and carved my name. I gave my life into my place, earned everything that I claimed. Nothing ever could replace me. 3-4-3-4, square dance on the floor. This is not a ball, I'm above it all. Starlight, see my glow up where you supposed to go. Proceed on the low, can't lose and find a go. Leave me in the zone, I take your mind and then I snatch your soul. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. I get it, they love my whole steady. Fake ops don't listen, told you this ain't hypothetical. Answer the call, prove this once and for all. Can't reach me with an arrow, summer nights I never fall. No cattle, the goat don't wear a saddle. Cool riders off my body, cut them off, they acting sloppy. Already, I consume the petty. The vision's 2020, believe your eyes are winning. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone.
Welcome back to the Fortnite Reload Elite series, and that was a blazing game one, certainly more aggressive in the early game than we saw last month in our opener, and that's exactly what we want to see, Coach Harry. And also we want to see the leaderboard, because I'm really interested to know who came out on top there. Obviously Chap and Flixie, we know that they're going to pick up loads of eliminations, and that's they got the victory royale there on top, but also having a look at number 3, Yapko and Panzer. This is a duo we're really excited for, but obviously they didn't show up last time round. So were you pleasantly surprised by their performance in game 1, Levin?
Yeah, definitely one of those sort of maybe not sleeper teams per se, right? Because I think everybody knows just how talented these two are. But I think what impressed me the most about their endgame here is you can look at the materials on Yapko. They didn't have much to work with, right? It was a bit of a scrappy one. And in a lobby where there's so much talent in these endgames, you're not going to have a clean endgame every single time. What impressed me the most about them in this game is that even when things were messy, most of the time they were able to just really stay together. 2 shotguns always going to be better than 1. And Harry, we know these two players, their aim is unbelievable, right? So when they get the opportunity to hit the right shots, they will, as Yapko showed towards the end there. And so again, not the cleanest of games for them, but they made the most out of a really rough situation.
Yeah, it is one of those games that puts you in contention. The games where not everything goes right, maybe something goes wrong off spawn, maybe, you know, they just use a few too many mats in the end game. But if you can get those games, instead of being an 8th or a 7th, bringing it up to a 3rd place, getting those few extra elims that you need to pick it up to a really, really good game, that is what's going to push you up the leaderboard. And as you said, the best aimers we have in EU, right? There are 2 of them, and I'm excited to see what they can do, and I hope they do a little bit more. You know, I want them to, you know, be winning those games, take it that little bit further.
Meanwhile, over at Slurpy Swamps, we didn't see Vico and Malabuka get everything for free. In fact, I feel like they got a lot more aggression coming their way than we were perhaps expecting, Harry?
Yeah, it was interesting because we discussed at the start that Slurpy uncontested, they're going to be chill, everyone's going to be able to just play for free. And then what ends up happening is you see them shockwaving over to Akira and Karama in the early game and trying to get aggressive early, and maybe it's just part of their plan that even if there's not a team in their POI that they can actually fight, they're going to go outside, they're going to get those early elims that they are able then to take it into a big game, or not even a big game, but if you get a bad placement and you still have 10 elims, they only got 4 this game, but if you get up to 10 elims and you end up getting something like a 10th or a 9th, that's still a really, really good game. So I want to see if they continue it. I want to see maybe they go north next game, or maybe Chap and Flixie, gotta watch out.
Damus and Dharm are a duo that continue to surprise. We don't have time to talk about them though, so I'm hoping they'll surprise us even more. Will a victory royale come their way? Game number 2, Taco and Takata, what are you saying?
Look, at least one of the games, I'd like to see it happen. I don't know if it's going to be this one, but I do want to shout out Chap and Flixie. Issue is, Battle Bus is already ready, so let's get into game number 2.
Getting off to a quick start here. Already aggression flying. Vico tangled up with Scary Sean. Seemed like that elimination was going heavily in their favor, though, and over by Stilttown. Contested at the start. Pixie and Swizzy doing what they can to try and claim whatever they might be able to find. And Deemish poking his head on over, just trying to see what the neighbors are getting up to. And this is also a pretty regular strategy that I think began to develop even from that first Reload Elite Series Finals, Takata, where you've got one member from the duo just dropping somewhere else completely unrelated to your starting point, because if they get eliminated, no problem. They're going to reboot right on top of where you're at in your initial landing point, but they might be able to find eliminations along the way here as Malabuka hoping to secure one, but instead he'll be taken down. Bethez and Acme fighting back here. A nice elimination for them is going to bring their total point count to 6 already.
Not looking good for Malabuka there with the pump shot, but hey, like you said, Taco, not a big deal. Just gonna reboot right back in onto Vico, but hopefully it doesn't cause people to get a lot more aggressive onto them. I just realized 4 eliminations already for Vico and Malabuka. I mean, going into this match now, top 4 on the leaderboard, looking significantly better than the initial finals they played in. I'm excited to see if they can close it out.
Prax and Glubshy, though, they're gonna have to duke their way forward, but it's Pixie on the receiving end. Pixie gonna be knocked now. Glubshy trying to see if he can help secure that secondary elimination, but it's an even exchange between both of these duos here. Glubshy versus Swizzy. Who's gonna come out on top? We might see an early duo elimination here for either of these teams based on whether or not their duos are gonna be able to reboot back in quickly, and sure enough, both sides will get their partners immediately hot dropping back into this fight. But Glubshy and Swizzy, they're not looking to slow things down. That crash pad not going to be of use just yet for Glubshy, just narrowly missing his floor there. But I like this switch up. Swizzy still taking the bulk of the aggression here, buying a little bit more time for Pixie to try and recuperate some of the lost material, some extra loot, whatever they can find, but it's got to be scraps now at Stilltown just because of how many players started off here early on, especially with Demish's surprise appearance. And yeah, just neither team having a whole lot of material count. They're going to let this one sort of fizzle out, but Glubshy and Prax probably just happy that they weren't fully eliminated. Same case scenario for Swizzy and Pixie.
It'll take a bit to recuperate what they've lost now, so we'll leave them at it. Upper Dodge and Gonzo are kind of just doing their early game roaming. I think I did see a player above, but be careful as Chap goes down, and I think Flixie also was eliminated.
That's a huge elimination wipe.
No, from first place, starting off so strong in the last qualifier finals. They barely missed out on qualification, getting top 5. Hopefully, they're able to just wipe this match off their shoulder and get back in the next ones. But for now, we'll focus on this second game. And I mean, so far, not too much more action.
But that's going to leave the leaderboard wide open for somebody else to try and work their way up into the top 3. And if not, for Chap and Flixie to potentially even be overthrown. I know that it's still only game 2 of 8 here today, Takata, but you just can never factor anybody out because one really strong pop-off performance, Harry even kind of alluded to it, you get a nice placement finish along with some double-digit eliminations potentially, which is very possible here. Malabuka and Vico already leading the pack, 6 elims in total, and a very firm control right now over Slurpee Swamp, especially knowing that they're not going to be having to deal with Chap and Flixie potentially contesting them later on. They are really just trying to secure as many eliminations as they can find. They know there's a lot of injured teams around them too. Cringe eliminated by Akira. Kurama, though, just separated enough that Vico and Malabuka might choose to fight this one before Akira can actually wiggle his way out of here.
Looks like they're going to take the passive route, though. I mean, already starting so strongly. They just want to kind of maybe farm up those eliminations. See if they can pick up Cringe once again. Kurama actually is going to take it from them, but they said no, not letting that one happen. As now they push on in. Malabuka gets cracked, though. Full boxed, knocked down. Akira finishing that one up quickly, as now Vico is going to be forced to disengage and play a bit passive until Malabuka comes back.
Akira and Kurama have been on a very steep uprising since they paired up together, and their performance, you can never really count out this French duo here, Takata. They are more than willing to push back. Vico and Malabuka gonna have to pick their fights a little bit more carefully now, though, while Malabuka looks to just, like you said, resecure some material count and just loot in general. But Pablo and Chino, slightly different scenes here, all alone on the outskirts of logjam logging, and a team that can really just take their time. They don't necessarily have to be super aggressive early on.
Yeah, I mean, they've already qualified to the $2.5 million land, so they don't have too much pressure. Didn't have a strong start in game one. They're currently in 14th place, 18 points. So, I mean, it's not starting too strong, but I mean, they're kind of chilling. You could see them recuperate it in these upcoming matches, so not too much of a surprise there. Pixie, though, did have a rough start. Now looks like they were able to recuperate a bit, but still not looking good at all. Hopefully they can find something here as Demish picks up a nice knock onto Bimbo.
Clean elimination. That's going to be his third as he's looking to chase down Josh now. And Josh, only so many places left to run. He's just trying to buy time for Bimbo to reboot back into this lobby so that way they can keep this lobby 2 dream alive. But he is on his last legs here, Takada, doing everything in his power to delay. But Demish and Darm just refuse to give this one up. They have more than enough assets to keep this fight very drawn out here. And Josh, way south in Fort Crumpet. Anything and everything is fair game here, but the grenade launcher is just breaking everything apart too. And Demish and Darm, they are just waiting to see whether or not Josh is actually going to be able to escape. The shockwave hammer seems like it might have saved his life for the time being.
He is going to try and hide here. Demish Darm recuperating the loot from Bimbo. As now Josh doesn't want to give away his position, so he can't really heal, but at the same time he's ticking. And he's on that timer that if Demish Darm don't leave soon, then it's going to be almost impossible for him to get out here. But Demish Darm don't want to spend the whole game here in zone, not only because of storm sickness, but they also just have to get to a better position. So at this point, no longer worth it. The hunt for Josh, he's going to have to find a way to make it back, and they are just going to focus on getting a nice rotate into zone.
The benefit there, though, for Demish and Darm is since they have more than enough white heal resources, they'll be perfectly fine with their next rotation in, maybe even able to make a bit of a dead side approach here. Vico, Alabuka still hanging around Slurpy Swamp right next to Karama and Akira, who have kind of carved out their own little section of Slurpy since the eliminations of Chap and Flixie. Just one less power duo to deal with in this area. They've got a little bit of leverage sitting on top of the rooftops currently. But Demish, Darm, they started to make their approach here. Malabuka and Vico realize, hey, this zone is pulling right into our backyard.
I mean, that's the good part about Slurpee as well. No matter where zone pulls, I mean, either it won't be too far of a rotate, or who knows, he might even get that lucky pull. So great position being dead center. This Pixie and Swizzy doing what they can now to reform up, as they did have that tough start of the match.
Just a lot of teams kind of encroaching in each other's faces right now, but very different looks for Panzer and Yapko. And first lobby, pretty solid performance, a great way to start building a little bit of momentum. I like the fact that they're kind of just willing to hang out over by Boom and Base. They know that they have the luxury of being able to sit right next to this vending machine, and they'll continue to take their time with things. I mean, they're really in no rush.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they are doing good right now in third place, so as long as they don't get themselves eliminated, they can do as they please. Sharktini now. We'll see if they end up going for height once again, which I'm sure they will, but this time around, Swizzy and Pixie are looking a bit healthier, so I'm excited to see if some kind of high ground contestation early on goes through from these players. But for now, it's kind of that waiting game on the zones. As I mentioned earlier, reboots will disable once that 7th zone appears, and then we'll get the half in, half out. So for now, just kind of waiting around.
A little bit of food for thought, though, if you're Cringe and Volko, that it's never going to be easy actually trying to step into zone, not with Shark and Teeny sizing you up, and they are not the only ones. Just so many duos already boxed up and just waiting for their opportunity. The moment that you see one team just on the receiving end of a little bit of lobby focus. It just seems like everyone seems to dogpile inward. Because now Howley, Lusha, building up a little bit, but they've got Bimbo and Josh directly underneath them. You have to remember, Bimbo, Josh, getting into that scrappy exchange so early on, it's cost them a lot of time. They likely don't have a whole lot to work with, but it's going to be Howley and Lusha that are in the biggest problem here. Reboots just disabled, so Lusha doesn't make it back in time. Howley now forced to play out the remainder of this secondary lobby as a solo. And this is a rough position to be in now, Takata, because everybody in the surrounding area knows, oh, Lusha does actually manage to make it in just before the cutoff. That is so fortunate.
I mean, yeah, one of the reasons people aren't peeking, of course, it's not just that reboots will disable, it's that it's a moment in the match where it's very likely you're going to get focused. And when you got everybody focusing you, not only will you expend all your mats, but it's a good chance that you don't even make it. Howley, Lusha, though, they've done a good job getting safe from what could have been tragic. And now Josh Wavy trying to do what they can to get ahead as everybody starts rotating in. The perfect opportunity to look back and take those shots, and Vico doesn't seem to be missing a single one.
Vico has just been on fire today. He's just willing to take every single shot that he can muster up here. Pablo going to be able to just barely scrape by without drawing their attention. But exotic pump in Vico's hands. It is a dangerous position for some of these other players in the lobby. We know just what kind of a fraggy player Vico is in general. So you hand him one of the best pumps in the game, you can expect some big things to happen here. It's Teeny and Shark sitting a little bit more idly by, but they've at least got a position that seems to not be near where a lot of the zone congestion is starting to build up towards this western side. Chino and Pablo trying to gauge whether or not it's worth getting involved in a fight just yet, applying a little bit of pressure to some of these teams. Most of the players kind of just waiting for their opportunity to start heading towards the next front side of zone.
Yeah, this is where Shark and Teeny already were looking at height in the last match, so we'll see if history repeats itself. But for Kurarma, Akira, they're playing consistently on low, but Akira's actually gone down. Not even sure how it happened. Vico now trying to get ahead. Lusha, Howley deciding, do we hold it? I mean, we've got it gifted to us. We could just try and stay up if we want. Vico, Malabuka, though, looking healthier than ever. This game, I got a feeling, Taco, I got a feeling that it's theirs.
You say that, but it's never guaranteed when you have factor in these shockwave grenades as so many players begin taking their chances moving forward here. Ali and Lusha just on their last few builds. They don't have the material count they need to maintain height. If they're going to invest forward, they're going to have to force a fight. They're going to have to find a refresh of some sort, because without it, this is cooked. You know for a fact that Vico, Malabuka, Shark, Teeny, they're all going to be trying to hunt down the high ground. Pablo, solo though, sure, they had some success finding one elimination apiece, but when you lose your duo in the end game, that is a tragic scenario to work through.
Yeah, Shark, Teeny were second height. I know they're looking for it. Vico as well playing as a solo now. As Vico, Pablo doing what they can. Howley, Lusha, they're still on height, but they ran out of mats. They have to find a refresh. They have to play aggressive if they want to be able to hold it any longer. Deemish Storm staying ahead as Pablo now looking for anything he possibly can find. But when you're a solo, riding the wave, playing the backside of zone is going to be the safest option. Medmis now popped.
Yeah, Vico's just trying to see if he can find any other solos possibly, or even just play spoiler to another duo in a cone right now, sealing his position as best he can, but he has no builds to his name. It is going to come down exclusively to whether or not he can connect for an elimination, get a little bit of Siphon material, Siphon in general, and just see how much further he can continue to maintain. You want to be in the pocket for placement points, and right now, there's still a little bit of room to work with, but Vico realizing he's got to get moving soon enough. Teeny and Shark well overhead the rest of the lobby, but Swizzy and Pixie, if they just look up, they'll realize Shark, Teeny, they're not going to get the chance to stay around any longer in that airspace. They're going to be forced to drop all the way down, so that is going to leave Swizzy and Pixie with a firm grasp on height for the time being.
Try and make it a sneaky play, but it's not going to happen against the duo that had height 8 out of 8 games to qualify themselves to these finals. Vico does go down, but now Swizzy and Pixie are looking to see if they can close this out on height. They still have a decent amount of mats. There doesn't seem to be too much pressure from the second height because they are the ones dealing that pressure onto Shark and Teeny. Pablo still alone. How long has he been playing as a solo? Done such an amazing job to stay up for this long. 3 elims on the board as Shark and Teeny are trying once again to see if they can float these next zones, but the pressure is on.
It doesn't seem like Swizzy and Pixie are fully aware of the fact that they are overhead just again. But if Shark and Teeny get a little bit of surprise action here, but no, Swizzy, Pixie, they look up a little bit too experienced for this one, and Teeny will be the first shot down, knocked. Shark also incredibly injured, doesn't have any heals that he can utilize either. It's only a matter of time before the lobby decides to pick him off too, as Swizzy just raining fire from above. You know just how dastardly they can be when they have such a strong control of height, and the lobby underneath so congested. Shark's gonna try to head up with a shockwave grenade. Secondary height now in his favor, but he only has one build. He has to make a refresh happen. He needs the elimination, but will he be playing first? That's the only question that remains here. Is Swizzy and Pixie, they do lose height eventually to Josh and Wavy.
Oh, they do have mats though, so they could go for a retake here. Josh Wavy looking healthy, but for how long will that last? The Swizzy in the skies connecting shots, but is it gonna be enough to overthrow height? Pixie now looking to build up now. They still are on second height. They could go for a chop here or apply that pressure above. I don't think they have any shockwaves, so a chop is what's gonna come through, but they need to connect their shots. Now fully cracked. Swizzy goes down. Josh and Wavy looking to hold on, but they've also ran out of materials. Just 4 duos up as Josh goes down. Wavy up in the clouds back above, and Pixie now looking to see how long he can stay up.
That was the Panzer show all day long, though. Ruining moments for Swizzy and Pixie here as Mama and Faded, they're actually going to be the ones with a little bit of HP to work with, but it is a 2 versus 1 currently. Make that a 1v1. Can he close it out? And sure enough, Pixie can't hold on. A nice elimination series at the end of it all, but Takada, the shockwaves were sending everybody flying, all those builds getting destroyed in the final moments here. It's just so difficult to hold on.
It's the name of the game, but we have to head over to our desk to explain what we just witnessed.
We just witnessed a team that didn't actually take the high ground, getting the victory royale. Harry, can you talk me through what happened in those final moments, please?
It's chaos. It is what you expect from Reloads. What we saw in the last Reload finals is you just see one team get chopped and another team get chopped, and everyone who saved their shockwaves just, let's see if we can win the game. Let's see if we can go upright, and Faded and Khan just staying below, just kind of just riding out the chaos. Let everyone else do everything, and we'll end up with winning in the end.
Yeah, I think one thing that really helped with that, right, is all the movements just kept putting max, right? And so teams are just spending so much material to continue to actually one stay up on height, right, and keep topping out. And for these guys, we saw Khan towards the end there. He had a drum gun, a mythic one. I just had flashbacks to chapter 2, right? Where you have, you know, controller players with drum guns just causing havoc. And yeah, when these guys are able to stay down there, get refreshes to sort of keep their mats ticking along and keep them in the game, it does definitely help. Very well played from these two.
I mean, it's definitely interesting to see like another couple of names who we weren't necessarily expecting to pull a victory royale, managing to grasp one from the clutches of some big names like Pixie, like Swizzy, like Shark and Teeny. The interesting question for me, I guess, Levin, is can they actually hold on to this? Do you think they can do it again?
Well, I mean, I'd like to hope so. Again, when you have a player like Khan sort of in very great form, right? They had some decent games in the Div Cup yesterday, right? Obviously different modes, but drum gun in hand, that guy, I trust him to keep getting a limbs for the squad. So I'm looking forward to seeing if these guys can keep the pace up.
Well, we'll take a look at the updated leaderboard in just a few moments. welcome back to Fortnite Reload Elite Series. We're 2 games in, 6 more to go. And that was an absolute barn burner, 11. We didn't know where to look in the end game, but one of the duos that we were looking at was definitely Pixie and Swizzy, because they got their desired win condition, and you've seen how that's taken them up the leaderboard by a massive 8 points. They're just outside of contention for a spot in the LAN finals over in August. And now 11, I feel like having the confidence that we saw them in that height take, I think they're really going to take this momentum forward.
Yeah, Harry, you spotlighted them, right, as a team who I think a lot of people are going to have eyes on to show up. And I think going into this endgame, I was ready to come here and say, wow, they made improvement from the heats. I feel like they did a much better job in this endgame of tracking the teams who were playing in Storm with Medmist trying to take height. Unfortunately for them, one thing we forgot that you do have to keep track of in Reload is teams who use fizz pads to go way up into the sky. I feel like we've just not seen that as much in these games. And in this game, we had Teeny and Shark giving them that problem, and Shark and Teeny were just so relentless. They tried it 2 times, Harry, before it was successful for them. And so again, I feel like they improved from their Heat's performance. It was a much better game from what we saw from them at times there. Almost a bit unfortunate that you have like the best duo in the lobby just relentlessly going at you, and then they ended up allowing Josh's team to come through and take height off them.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Shark and... Oh, sorry, Harry. Continue.
I was just
going
going to say, absolutely. Like, it's one of those things when you are Teeny and Shark, you are going to try these crazy new ideas. No one has... I can't remember the last time someone did a fizz pad in endgame that late on, and as Swizzy and Pixie, you don't prepare for those type of things, and unfortunately it didn't work out this game because there just wasn't enough action towards height for the height to not be aware of the pads, but maybe in another game we can see it work out.
Yeah, I feel like when you look at, again, I talked about the zones we're pulling so far, I feel like they still did a good job of keeping their materials, right? Shark and Teeny were just sort of desperate to make anything happen, and again, the talent from them, when they're playing like recklessly almost, right, it just causes so many more problems for everyone in the lobby.
Well, let's see who's going to be causing the most problems in game number 3. Let's head back to Taco and Takata.
Man, you just gotta look every which way. You don't know what's gonna be above. You don't know who's gonna be below. And the best part about it all, Takata, is that these shockwave grenades, you got players flying in from every which direction. But game 3 on the line now. Let's see how it goes.
It's getting exciting, as now Beamish once again trying to sneak his way into the party uninvited. But will it pay off? Pixie and Swizzy had a rough start of their match, but despite that, they turned it around and almost came out winning the game. But now, quick elimination onto Prax. This could be what they needed, as they're doing what they can to find Glubshi.
Glubshi just doing what he can to create a little bit of space, but Swizzy and Pixie, they have sniffed out where Deemish was lurking. And they are going to make sure that they remove him from Stiltdown. They don't want to allow him the opportunity to find an elimination here, but Swizzy, he's incredibly low. Pixie actually going to be turned on here, and Deemish rising through it all. Deemish now seeing if he can chase down Swizzy, and Swizzy knows, I've just got to get out of here. I got to make sure that Pixie has the opportunity to reboot, but now he's got to deal with Glubshi on the other end of things, and Deemish, he's more than happy to invest however much time here, because all he needs is eliminations. He's just trying to secure as many as possible before he's sent packing back to Darm over in Fort Crumpet. And his run still not going to be cut short. It's going to be a 180 yet again. Pixie has got to fall back. Reboot after reboot. Glubshi going to be next. Deemish is just on a rampage right now.
They can't stop him. He does not miss these max damage pumps, as now Pixie gets dropped back into Stilt Town. Deemish dropped to 25 HP. He's gonna heal up, maybe rob a bit of that med mist, but they need to get him out of here. He's just getting way too much value.
Oh my God, if he'd done it yet again, Deemish, you are still disgusting for that one. I mean, that's still 6 points to God. It's 2 eliminations, and it is completely caused so many problems now for Prax, Glubshi, Swizzy, and Pixie, because these 2 teams, they've still got to duke it out. They've still got to try and capitalize on the leftovers here in Stilttown, but it's going to be Swizzy who brings down Glubshi. Prax now going to utilize a shockwave to make sure that he gets out of dodge, but what a chaotic mix-up here in the heart of Stilttown. More than enough value from Demish and Darm on that one.
Get back over at Pablo and Chino, though. They are going to pick up a knock onto Josh. They have 3 eliminations now. And honestly, they are looking incredibly healthy. They might just try and farm it here. I think Wavy's already out of here. He's gone. So not too much more coming from this, but great way to start off the match for Pablo and Chino.
Knowing that they've already got their spot secured for the UWC LAN finals, they are content to just try and switch things up a little bit. I mean, they've been a little bit more, I think, passive, especially considering that they're uncontested at Logjam logging, but you want to get that action in. I believe they were sitting right around 13th place on the leaderboards after the first couple of lobbies. Didn't really pan out in their favor. It's Faded and Khan. They're now trying to see if they can get a little bit of rhythm going here after success of that second lobby. Definitely got to be a big confidence boost to win out. Great placement points secured on top of everything else, but Faded Pigeon not going to be able to find that knock just yet. It's going to be Josh one more time trying to see if he can even land here off the reboot. Faded, just one more shot will do it, and sure enough, another elimination going to be secured here as Wavy, he's just headed to the opposite direction of where Khan and Faded are at.
Josh unfortunately getting the Allier special. Good news is he should be able to get out now as we switch over to Malibuca Vico. Not as many elims as they did in the previous match, but good news is they are looking, I'd say, pretty healthy. Shotgun could get a bit of improvement, but you know, at least they're both up and running. They did kind of have that surprise con by Syaz and Scary on the east side of Slurpee, so having to deal with that, all things considered, could be significantly worse. Prax and Glubshi now actually pursuing Demish and Darm after that early game action. I don't know what happened. Darm's left all alone. Prax gets cracked, but they still have the upper hand.
This is like after the first lobby of Demish, you know, playing a little bit of spoiler in Stilltown. Okay, we get it. It's a legitimate strategy. But now this is like Demish kicking the hornet's nest. And Glubshi, Prax, they are not happy being one of the teams on the receiving end of that early planned interruption. Darm still very swifty with the movement. Gonna manage to evade Glubshi and Prax just long enough to replenish at least half of his shields. But he is forced all the way back inside his box. Nowhere left to run. Just trapped in Fort Crumpet as Prax and Glubshi will now secure their third elimination of the match. And Demish also a little bit beat up here from that kind of a takeover by Glubshi and Prax. A revenge tour might be very problematic for their Lobby 3 run here as Shark and Teeny reminding everyone why you don't come to Dirty Docks.
Josh, once again, that's got to be the third time, fourth. He's been eliminated. As Wavy now is almost out of options. Good news is, has that med kit, so we can afford to stay in zone here, as Shark and Teeny are going to do the opposite and let him be. Oh.
Well, no, they're not letting him be. They just wanted to claim the slurp truck. The problem for Wavy and Josh is that they got so pushed out of where they were initially at because of Khan and Faded Pigeon that their only option was to resort to retreating straight into the heart of Dirty Docks. But again, it's just basically like jumping from one problem into the next. You are just never safe when it comes to the Reload Elite Series finals, Takata. Everyone just looking to take advantage of whoever might be getting rebooted at any given moment. And so it's going to be a big uphill battle now for Wavy and Josh. See if they'll be able to recover it later on. Volko and Cringe, though, they've managed to solidify a little bit of a base setup here now. Center zone. Just waiting to see who's lurking nearby.
Once again, we've kind of reached the point. Team starting to base up. There still has to be a bit more rotates before we're fully at the kind of moment where teams play a bit more passive, but Yapko now. And Panzer have been playing incredibly slow, and honestly, it's been paying off. I mean, leading the pack with 103 points. They haven't got a win yet, but 3rd place, 4th place, 2-4 eliminations. They aren't even fragging out. They're just consistently making it to the end game and doing very well in it. But for Wavy, he's gone down this time. Now Josh is going to be the one that's still up. They've traded positions here.
A little scary, but now this could be a big problem for Shark and Teeny. They might have over-invested farming Josh and Wavy off of their reboots because Kira, Kurama lurking on the other side of Dirty Dogs. Both of these teams are going to eventually have to exit Dirty Dogs and start moving into the zone, but they might not be given the option here. A little bit of a replay of what went down. Teeny finding great elimination onto Wavy there. Checking back in with Khan and Faded after some of those early elimination successes they also had. They're definitely looking relatively healthy in the loadout department, and they'll have more than enough time to kind of determine where they want to rotate through. But I mean, going back to Panzer and Yapko and what you were talking about with a slightly slower early game, Takada, I think the bigger thing is to actually hold that thought. Shark Teeny one more time. Jesus, it is just never easy. There's always going to be at least one team that is on the receiving end of the reboot cycle farm.
Yeah, and it's been going on for like 3 zones at least, maybe even more. They're just going back and forth. I wonder how many eliminations teams have gotten from that already. Bevies, Strokey, 3rd place right now, holding kind of that cutoff to be in qualifying range for championship land. But Shark and Teeny once again, Wavy. What do we have, like 6 elims now? 7? I don't even know. As Bevy, this trophy going to continue on forward.
Imagine storm sickness becomes a problem because you spent so much time in the early storms just farming elimination points. But it makes total sense though when you remember that Shark and Teeny, they still want to play for the prizing that's on the line. I mean, $30,000 for 1st place. They already know what it's like to win, Takada. They've got their land final spot secured. But in 14th place heading into this 3rd lobby, that is just not good enough for the standard that they have established for themselves in this season. And Shark, Teeny, 7 eliminations
That's
already.
crazy.
Josh might just be the 8th if he's not careful.
Literally just doing it for the love of the game at this point. I mean, they're farming a good amount of points, so I mean, all for it. We'll see how that continues to the late game. Like you mentioned, storm sickness might bite them, but as long as they get a decent end game, I mean, they've already got the eliminations to help. Wavy down again. 8th time now, I guess, as Dodge and Gonzo qualified for finals despite being the lowest seeded team in their heat. And now with 80 points on the board, I mean, 5th place, 7th place, they've been incredibly consistent.
That was the Mercy duel elimination from Shark and Teeny. They finally decided it's time to get a move on. But they secured so many points just off of those elims. And yeah, excited to see how Gonzo and Pradaj continue to fare in this one. But Vico, Malabuka, a little bit of a slower start here in comparison to the last lobby, but for good reason. I mean, sometimes it's nice when you're able to find those consistent elimination points early on, but at the same time, you run the risk of just those third-party engagements, and that's already a huge threat for them, dropping at Slurpy Swamp, so less is better sometimes, or less is more, I should say. It's Pablo and Chino are now gonna look to see whether or not they can actually apply a little bit of pressure to teams around them, prevent them from actually rotating through their current spot.
Teeny and Shark now making their way back into the zone finally. It's going to be right on Akira and Kurarma's door. Luckily enough, they've gotten enough medkits and heals to kind of last it through. 8 eliminations, 4 shockwaves. I'm kind of scared from how healthy they're looking and how aggressive we're about to see them play for this high ground. Chap and Flixie, though, they won it more than anyone. 5th place in the Qualifier 1 finals. Now looking to see if they can make it into that top 3. They're currently 6th on the leaderboard, so one good game could put them in qualifying range.
Yeah, but they're also trying to make up for lost time. You have to remember, one good game can change your position, yes, but also Swizzy, Pixie, the early hiccups in Stiltdown have now translated into mid-game woes as they'll be eliminated. Just too much lobby focus headed their way here. And deep inside this ultimate low ground position, Biko, Malabuka, now trying to see whether or not they can establish a little bit of priority. But Flixie, he's launched Cap, and we already know he needed this game. But as a solo, and with the whole lobby looking your way, there is not very many directions he can actually opt ahead. He is burning through his mat count so quickly because of all the pressure being applied to him. Down to his last 36 builds here at Takata, and we still have a whole endgame to play. The moment first moving zone starts breaking through too, it's just going to cause all the more issue here for Flixie. He'll be forced to play deep backside of zone.
Yeah. From winning the first game to being one of the first teams eliminated and now looking to go down again with minimal points. This is not the way you want them to start off their tournament, but who knows, maybe Flixie can clutch up a little bit. We saw, I think it was Pablo do it last game. But now the good news for Pablo is he's got Chino right by his side. So they are ahead in zone, almost capped mats. This is looking good.
But they're going to possibly need a refresh there. Didn't see any white resources there for Pablo. Knock on to Cringe. Have to expect that's going to be a translation elimination soon there. Panzer and Yapko doing a great job at kind of controlling the flow from the backside low ground. But Shark, Teeny, they've gotten what they were after all along, but they will be chopped for it. Flowberry Fizz comes out just in time. And now they're going to have to start catapulting themselves forward. But with these shockwave grenades, they shouldn't have any issues. And Flixie will finally be claimed. Just too much pressure. And will eventually fold to it. But Shark, Teeny, now just trying to see what they can do. It's the first time we've really seen them in a very controlling position since that first lobby on the high ground, and they are letting the rest of the teams know underneath them. Josh, Bimbo, still trying to move their way forward. Crash pads, finish shockwaves, but it's just so destructive underneath. It's basically a demolition derby when you're watching some of these shockwaves at work. Faded just trying to get whatever shield replenish he can, but he'll have to cut that shield potion short. Too much pressure kind of pulling in from overhead, and he's stuck playing inside of the zone, still utilizing Memphis Grenade, but now he's got to keep trying to move forward. Vision a little bit obscurity here, but as a solo with one build, he might be able to get a pick off to Brax. Shot's not going to be enough here. He can't connect. He needs the next one to confirm. Instead, he'll lose the majority of his HP. Almost gets the 180 there, but he will be eliminated.
Sharkatini must be running low on mats here. They're going to have to find refreshes to recuperate it if they want to hold on to this final chaotic moment that happens time and time again in this reload format. Yapko now going through builds like they're nothing as they find a little refresh on the ground. Pick up Howley alongside it. Pablo Chino planning their next rotate as somehow Sharkatini are still holding on to height. And now Yapko picking player after player, bumping up that elimination counter, but the chaos is continuing to unfold on the low.
Gotta be quick when you're looting some of these bodies underneath. Slurp Juice, though, gonna allow Yapko set himself on a little bit forward, tank up a little bit of those storm ticks. But it's the front side low control. They're doing a great job at cutting off some of the other duos, setting up their pre-edits. They are trying to see if they can chop out the floors even. Who will they claim next? Is Pablo Chino on a tear of their own, it seems. 6 eliminations now, and Malabuka left as a solo. He can't even play the Mecha inside the cone. He's going to be brought down to Akira Karama's level. That is a big elimination wipe for the Frenchies, but Teeny and Shark still berating the lobby from overhead. Pradaj skirting by as a solo, but there's just so much mayhem unfolding. This mid and low ground completely falling into itself. Is Pablo Chino backside for a moment, just trying to catch any stragglers off guard.
This is where those last shock waves come into play. All the opponents get dropped down onto the low. Yapko capitalizing on it as he's looking to pick up more eliminations, but they've been split up. Pablo Chino now get back together. Shark and Teeny have held on to height this whole game as they continue to apply that pressure from above as Chino Pablo drop down into the grass now. Pressure's on 2v2. They need to close out this team down below or else the high ground team's gonna get the best of them, and that's exactly what they did. Shark, Teeny now dropping down, looking to close this match out. They've already got double-digit eliminations. It's Yapko, it's Panzer down below, but they've got to be careful. The mats have run out. The shockwaves are coming through. Shark cannot miss these shots as Yapko's gone down. It's a bouncy castle. Players going up and down, but Panzer is going to be the one that closes it out. Are you kidding me?
The fact that Kurama just gets sandwiched in between it all too, but Shark, Teeny, it was such a big investment controlling height for as long as they did, but it's the shockwaves. Panzer, Yapko close it out here in game 3. Frankie, Levin, Harry, let's hear it.
Thank you so much. Shark and Teeny might have looked safe on the high ground in the final couple of zones, but Yapko and Panzer always looked one step ahead on the low ground, Levin.
I mean, I looked down, you know, at my notes because I was like, oh, Teeny Shark, they won the game, you know, let me get some more stuff down about some other teams. Look back up and Panzers won the game. I mean, I don't know how that's happened. Look, we had a really cool game from them earlier, right? Where Yapko and Panzer, they looked really scrappy. They weren't the cleanest of end games, Harry. This time around, they get a big refresh in the moving zones and they show us exactly what they can do with it.
I mean, you've as you said, you've seen both parts of the spectrum, right? Whether it's when they're scuffed and they can recover the game really easily and get a good end game out of it, or whether when they're stacked and they can use their materials to cut off teams and actually just able to run the low ground. And being able to have these many mats later on just allows you to save the shockwaves, which came in so clutch.
Yeah, I mean, look at this, right? Again, using those materials, just creating space. Yapko, Panzer, we say it so many times, great box fighters. Yapko's always going to hit a max, right? You know, I remember when Yapko had gone to NA, you know, not too long ago, and a lot of the NA players were always bigging him up as being this great fighter, this, you know, very talented player, and it's good to see him showcasing that since he's been back on EU. But again, you have to respect Panzer for closing out the job, right? It was not an easy thing to finish off. It did look like Shark was going to get the job done, but he hits the shots needed as well at the end there. Big pump to close it. Great game from these guys. Want to see them at the LAN for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to see more games from all of these players, so let's head to a break.
Teammates have his back. There's Smash. Gets the drop on Marius. Stays alive. They're targeting out Vanya. 3v1.
Welcome back to the Reload Elite Series. If you've just joined us, we're 3 games into our second qualifying final, and Yapko and Panzer just got themselves a victory royale. Let's take a look at the leaderboard and see where we're at after a lot of very aggressive action. If you notice there that there's a crown next to Sharkantini, that's because they've already qualified for the LAN in August. You'll see that next to Pablo, Ringo and Chino as well, because they placed 3rd back in February. But let's talk about the fact that Yapko and Panzer are at the top. That was a fantastic performance from them. They're showing consistency so far. But another duo that's needing to show more consistency would be Sharkantini. However, we are going to enjoy, because I've mentioned their names, it would be rude not to show them, Harry.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it before, right? How dominant they were on the low ground, and to be honest, it was really good to see that they can play in both ways, aggressive when they have the mats and aggressive when they don't. But I think the story of this endgame, to be honest, for me, was Sharkantini, and seeing how they were able to hold it, right? You saw them early in the endgame get chopped once. I'm pretty sure it was by Scary and Ciaz, and they didn't lose it. They re-established, they built back up, they looked strong, and I mean, from that point onwards, it was just pretty easy for them to get into a position where they could win that game.
Yeah, and Sharkantini, Levin, what do you make of the way that they're playing things so far? Because we saw them back in game 1, completely aggressive, straight out the gate, immediately ruining the day for Akira and Karama, and they haven't really stopped. The momentum is taking them forward, and they're showing no fear.
They are playing exactly as I expected, right? Aggressive, dominant, full throttle, foot on the gas, right? They're doing all the things we expect them to do. Be aggressive, key teams, play for high ground aggressively, regardless of whether they're in a good position to play it or not, right? And so it's really exciting to watch. These guys, in my opinion, are the best reload team right now, and so we'll see if they can push for first place once more.
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly there. I think right now it feels like Yapko and Panzer far ahead, most consistent team. You could see by the placement points, right, how consistently they're getting deep into endgame. But I want to see some of the other teams step up. I want to see, someone like Chino and Pablo. They had their first good endgame there, and I want to see more of it. And, Tini and Shark in last qualifier, they started slow and build back up. So any team who you might not see at the top of the leaderboard, don't count them out too soon. We've got plenty of games left.
Okay, I will not count out Tap and Flixie. Let's head back to the casters for game number 4.
Thank you, Frankie. Look, I want to see it happen too. I'm on Harry's boat. If Chino Pablo get top 3, then technically it's top 5 that qualify to the LAN. So I'd love to see that happen. They're close. They just need a solid game.
Yeah, it really just all depends, though, on how some of these endgame moments are actually going to filter themselves out, because we've seen teams, even when it's Shark and Tini in control of height, it's never a lock for the actual victory royale, but still plenty of points being accrued, whether it's via eliminations or via their placements. I think ultimately we'll see who's going to come out on top here in Game 4.
Shout out too to Yapko and Panzer. They have not done worse than 4th place so far, with 4th, 3rd, and 1st being their placements in these past 3 games. Hopefully they can keep it up. I want to see a big game from Chap and Flixie, though. They've had such a rough start after that initial first game. Faded and Khan went from winning a match to not a good placement at all. I believe it was top 16, top 17, so hopefully they can make something happen here.
A little bit of trouble on the horizon for them, though, is that element of surprise, having a solo from one of the duos kind of land on a different position than what they'd originally intended. It's going to send everything for a loop here, but Pigeon and Khan at least seem to have pretty good control of boom and base for the time being. Still have to keep an eye out, though, for Kashi and Firen, and not only that, but Akira lurking nearby. Glubshy, Frax, Swizzy, Pixie, just these 2 duos to contest each other here at Stilt Town. No Deemish in sight. Darman Deemish may be recognizing, hey, we didn't like receiving a taste of our own medicine, with Glubshy and Frax immediately barreling them over at Fort Crumpet to punish them for those early contests in the last couple of lobbies.
Deemish did just, I believe, knock an Elim Bimbo, though, so maybe he's like, okay, I'm done with Stilt Town, but I'll go somewhere else. I'll give another place of the map a test. As Swizzy now, though, looks like he's in a engagement against Glubshy. The fight continues without any third parties. Knocked down, though, now left in a 1v2.
That's a tough break, though, for Swizzy. It looked like he was going to be in control of that fight, but instead, Glubshy's the one who's able to turn things around here. Will not only secure all of the body loot off of Swizzy, but forcing him to reboot now means that it's going to come down to Pixie trying to create a little bit of space, get a little bit of safety net distance away from Glubshy and Prax, and they're going to have to forfeit the bulk of what there is to take in the first place here at Stilttown. Just a little bit of a damper on the scenes. Darm Deemish, though.
What's going on here?
Eliminated for a moment. Seemed like Darm was going to be able to commit for that revive, but it's just not going to be good enough. Chap and Flixie actually decided to go sightseeing over by Fort Crumpet. And they've really got to come up big time here at Takata because the last couple of lobbies have definitely been very difficult. And it's only going to get worse right now as Flixie knocked Darm Deemish chasing out Chap. Another early removal from the lobby would be devastating for the overall leaderboard outcome right now. Chap and Flixie just trying to stay alive, but Darm and Deemish, they are men on a mission right now, just looking to see if they can get this confirmation. The elimination will be secured. Flixie did just manage to reboot, but now it's gonna be the Bulls just continuing to chase them.
Yeah, Deemish actually was going away from the fight when Darm was in the 1v2, but then Darm picked up Flixie and Deemish is like, oh wait, this is super winnable. I'll head right back over. So great job from Darm holding up there, as now they've got 4 elims on the board. Incredible loot, and this time around, a lot healthier in the mid game than they were before. Malibuca Vico as well. Looks like they won that early game engagement, or it might even still be going on here, but nothing too risky for them so far.
If you're going to drop center map, you are going to invite anyone and everyone to try and contest you. Malibuca and Vika knew exactly what laid in store for them, running it back in this secondary qual, but 3 eliminations is definitely a nice position to be in. They just know that there are so many other duos still surrounding them, but Flixie and Chap being injured might encounter some issues here as Pablo, Chino, they're going to take down Bimbo, make him think otherwise of trying to encroach on their spot over by Logjam.
Uh-oh. Bimbo is doing what he can to hide, but with the build's already coming through, he's been found. A few shots connect, but nothing to knock Pablo down as he picks up his 3rd elimination for the game. And Bimbo, unfortunately, is going to get fully eliminated.
Now I would probably expect the main reason why Bimbo's even here in the first place. I think that early contest against Bradaj and Gonzo definitely couldn't have gone in their favor for them to be a little bit further west here now. And Pablo, he just wants more. Another elimination going to be confirmed onto Bimbo. The reboot cycle is just so brutal when you are on the receiving end of things. Shark, Teeny, though, they decided they want to get involved because they are never content with anything outside of first place on the leaderboard, Takata. And so where are they going to look to head first? Steamy Stacks, Panzer, Yapko. They've had so much success throughout the course of these games so far here today. It is no real shocker that Teeny and Shark are going to look to try and put a little bit of a halt to that because they want to be the ones that have the comfortable seat on the top spot of the leaderboard.
To be fair, it's also a good spot. I mean, Zone did pull north and they've got a hill now, but definitely a big possibility that they are going to try and shut down Yapko and Panzer with their roll they are on. I think they're like 60 points ahead of them currently, so we'll see if they can maintain that as Malibuca and Vico continuing to kind of stay in Slurpee a little longer. We saw Sharktini, despite being in zone, say almost the whole early to half mid game, they still didn't have Storm Sickness affect them and played it all the way to 2nd place. So definitely okay to stay a bit longer.
Yeah, size and scary though. Having a lot of issues with Malibuca and Vico inside of Slurpee Swamp. Gino and Pablo though, 6 eliminations intel. Gotta be feeling really nice about that one, and the zone pulling more towards their direction. Logjam logging, they're not done just yet either. Glubshy just trying to see if he can make it down to the ground level. And Josh, Bimbo, also trying to stay incognito, but it's no good. Chino, fully aware of where they're at, but not going to look to pressure it out just yet. A little bit too much local traffic. And so that's going to force them to just give it a sec. And that's a little bit of room to breathe now for Bimbo and Josh. But how much can you really expect to get away with here when Chino and Pablo are right next to you?
Yeah, it's on the duo you want to be next to. Luckily enough, they have been playing safer throughout the day. Last game, though, they turned it up. 8 eliminations. We'll see if that follows throughout in this match. But Shark and Teeny now deciding to take that safe route from having, what, was 8 back-to-back elims onto Wavy and Josh. Now they're like, okay, you know, this time around, we'll take it a bit more chill. We'll just rotate, play the zone. And, you know, it's paying off so far.
But where they position themselves, it looks like it's a little bit more of a cutoff from where Panzer and Yapko will have to inevitably rotate through. I think that's really what they're trying to set up and wait for, opting to be a little bit more low profile as Vico. No Malabuka in sight just yet. Have to figure out why. Volko, cringe, got an elimination onto Scary. But this is a very far scenes from where Slurpee Swamp is at. So Scary and Size, they were definitely effectively pushed out of Slurpee by Vico and Malabuka, but Malabuka on the reboot spawn cycle is gonna take some time here. And Matez, Capi, just trying to see what they can gather. Content to spend a little bit of extra time waiting to see exactly directions for everybody else surrounding them and where they're gonna rotate through.
38 duos still up. Or players, I mean, 19 out of the 20 duos. Not too much action goes on in kind of that 6th, 5th zone, but it's right before those reboots end is where a lot of the danger kind of comes through. Smaller zones, riskier rotates. Wondering what happened to Pradaj. You can see fully cracked there on the edge of Steamy.
Looks like Gonzo and Pradaj maybe had intentions of
no.
building up a little bit here, but Panzer Yapko with the stealth play of a lifetime. Gonzo now fully on the retreat. That shockwave gonna buy him a little bit of time, a little bit of space. And Panzer Yapko, at least for the time being, they're gonna let this one slide by. But you have to anticipate that they're going to look to re-aggress at any moment now. They are relatively stacked, Takata. I mean, 4 shockwave grenades. It's definitely a nice spot to be in, and they know that they have Gonzo completely cut off from communications with his duo. He is stranded.
Yeah, they did almost kind of mess up a bit, though. There was only 1 pump shot that connected. They weren't able to both hit one and get the full knock instantly, so it did cause Gonzo to leave, but Faded, a tragic moment to get knocked. Good news is reloads are still active, but it's only for a matter of time, and now the focus slowly getting onto them. Bevy's being fully cracked. We'll see how the recuperation's gonna come through, but Pixie Swizzy now holding on.
This is an evil zone pull that we are witnessing right now, because anybody that's rebooting in these last few moments, they're just going to be so exposed. There is not very many places to hide already. Deep southwest on the map right now. Excuse me, just deep west in general, but Strokey and Bevies trying to prevent Faded from getting any closer. Want to see if they can secure another elimination here, and sure enough, Faded and Khan, I believe that is going to be a clean duo wipe here. We're nearly to the placement points, Takata. Remember, it's top 15, and it's always like this. I feel like whenever we're hitting 7th, 8th zones, we're still looking at just so many teams left over from the early game.
I mean, this is truly where the game starts for a lot of these teams. Like you mentioned, without even having placement points hit yet, the majority of the eliminations coming through this section of the match, if you didn't have kind of the chance to farm those elims in the early game. I'm curious to how this zone pulls, though. Is it going to continue on the edge, or no, it is going to pull back, so Yapko, Panzer now in a great position here.
Can't say the same, though, for Swizzy and Pixie, as they've been fully eliminated. They're not going to be able to reboot back into this one. That is a clean duo wipeout. Yapko Panzer, though, their style has definitely been a little bit more committed towards the low ground. Floor is getting chopped down underneath, though, from Kashi and Fire, and Vico Malabuka refusing to let Fire and have the opportunity to go for the revive. And now Prax Glubshy overhead. And it's going to be an abandoned mission here from Fire, and he's going to be forced to just play his own life and leave his Noct duo to the wolves here. Vico Malabuka, the loot is free for right now.
6 elims on the board as well, looking incredibly strong as now the zone pulls back to that high elevation. Pablo looking to capitalize on it. Meanwhile, Shark and Teeny actually playing down in the water, living up to Shark's name as he looks to pick off Wavy. And now that's another elim for them on the board. Actually, first one of the game as they continue to kind of take that passive route.
Poor Wavy and Josh. It almost, you think it's almost personal at this stage from Teeny and Shark, but no, it's just when two worlds collide, and unfortunately, Shark and Teeny being that other half of it, just a dangerous duo to ever have to encounter, but everybody seems like they've really taken note. Playing on the cliff face, trying to box up wherever they might. High ground position on the peak of this hill here is going to be very difficult to control. It's going to come down to, I think, a lot of resource management, especially for some of these crash pads and shockwave grenades. But when you have so much of the zone, forcing these duos to kind of traverse over all this water and varying elevation, it's just going to be very difficult for teams to maintain their build count.
To be fair, though, the zone is pulling back to where it came from, so it's a good opportunity to recycle a lot of the builds that were already used to make it this far. However, when you're shockwaving, when you're crash padding, sometimes it's hard to know exactly where you're going to land, especially if it's opponent's builds. But Howley, Lucia doing a great job of holding on to the clouds here, applying pressure to that second height, as now, once it gets over the water, it's going to be even more difficult for those players that are down below.
Want to see how Lusha actually fares up above, though. We know that he is a fiend notorious for loving his high ground control, but actually being able to maintain it in a lobby of this caliber, that's where the difficulties really lies. Vico Malabuka, it's going to be through. They're going to find an elimination onto Pradaj. Where is Gonzo hiding? But Vico Malabuka, instead, it's Felixi. Don't know if they realize, but Vico has to pause. He needs to give an opportunity for Malabuka to heal up just a bit, get a little bit of shield online here before they move forward. Hallie Lusha still doing a great job maintaining height. Panzer overhead. The shockwaves, Yapko right behind him. Be able to recycle a little bit of this Memnis grenade, but visual, it is very difficult to actually see through here. You want to make sure that you don't get surprised at the last second. A lot of teams kind of just waiting for the perfect opportunity to pick off somebody from the backside of zone.
I mean, those teams that built the big tarps, it's gone back again. The back and forth of these zones is crazy as Lusha and Howley are capitalizing on that exact situation. But so far, the players down below that are running low on mats now are starting to see that difficulty as Pablo Chino playing a bit aggressive onto Shark and Teeny. Medmist forced to be parked here. Slurps, though, in the inventory. It's going to be a quick bailout for him.
We've also got those shockwaves just in case. Could really play spoiler for some of these other teams nearby. The build's just getting destroyed in moments. A Shark going to use one of those shockwaves to go up. Secondary height, break through the builds now. High ground overall, and he's not the only one. Teeny right next to him. Howley going to be forced to try and depart here. Pablo from overhead, but Lusha nowhere to be seen. Shark, Teeny have completely overthrown High. It is firmly in their control now, and they will waste absolutely no time cranking further upwards and tarping overhead. This is going to be terrifying for everybody else underneath.
Yeah, they have a very healthy amount of materials as well. And Zone, once again, it's just going back and forth. I don't even know what to say at this point. Yapko, though, in a healthy spot. Pablo was able to pick up Chino as well. Inventory not looking great. Just a quick fizz to get ahead here, as now finally the zone pulls further into the land. Yapko Panzer trying to capitalize on that and take those shots on the players on the edge of Storm.
But the low ground is something they are very familiar with, and they still have a couple of shockwaves. We've seen them time and time again throughout the bulk of these lobbies, just breaking through builds in the final seconds, making it very complicated for any teams to actually gauge which direction they might send themselves flying towards. As Yapko, Panzer still managing to stay ahead, but they are incredibly low on builds in comparison to somebody like Pablo, who's still just managing tart forward for Gina, waiting to see if they can confirm yet another elimination from the heart of low ground. Josh in a lot of trouble here too, and you can never forget about Vico and Malabuco, who are still carving their own way forward here. Big shockwave, but it's not going to send Vico where he wants to go. Instead, he loses Malabuca. They've got a lot of eliminations to work with, but the front side of zone, it is not in Vico's control just yet. He's going to need more. And Demish, Darm, just trying to stay alive.
Quickly punished though when they tried playing for the high ground. Shark doing what he can to maintain it, but now the shockwaves, the bouncy castle once again unfolding as Demish has dropped to 11 HP, just one shot away from getting eliminated. But somehow, after all that chaos, it's still Shark and Teeny above.
And Shark needed that little bit of Flowberry Fizz, that little bit of backup from Teeny, but Pablo, Chino, they're not ready to let go of this one just yet. Big shot onto Panzer for Pablo. Just gonna wait for that siphon to come through. A little bit of material. He needs the body loot, and he needs it now, but he won't get a chance to make it there. Yapko gonna cut him off, punish him for that elimination onto his duo. And it is a clean exchange between the two. That's gonna put Shark and Teeny in a power position now. Just rocking overhead. Yapko with credit on another elimination. The siphon match coming up big time for him. But still, will it be enough? He's got one med kit to work with here, Takana. Can Shark and Teeny actually figure out where he's at?
Oh, Shark though gets quickly shut down as Yapko is on fire as he's looking to pick up another one, but Teeny has found a vending machine. No, he goes down. Teeny, Shark end up closing it out. Shark played aggressive, Teeny played safe, and with that, they were able to secure the victory royale.
But it's the fact of the matter that Yapko and Panzer were even able to make that deep of a run in the first place. Incredible scenes all around from some of these duos. Frankie, what have you got to say?
Thank you very much. And yeah, Yapko Panzer, they're looking like the most consistent duo in this lobby so far. However, you have to hand it to Shark and Teeny. They're always gunning for that top spot. And this time it was no different, Harry.
No, it feels like a copy and paste of last game. You've got Pablo and Chino making it deep into the end game, and you've got, at the end, well, it wasn't a 2v2 this time, it was a 2v1 of Shark and Teeny versus just Yapko, and to be honest, it's looking like it's lining up to be a really exciting endgame. Just seeing the same two duos fight out consistently, and give Shark and Teeny high ground, and you'll see what they'll do. They'll make it to the last moving zone. They'll make it to be at least top 2, and they are setting up to dominate the lobby, and surprisingly not as aggressive in the early and mid game as I thought, you know, with the shackles off as we talked about. But hey, whatever works. Don't fix what's not broken.
Well, look, when we look at how they played in the first qualifier, right, they weren't one of those teams that was super aggressive. We thought that might change now that they have the shackles off, like you said. But one thing that hasn't changed is their willingness to go up for height. Disgusting scenes from these guys at the moment. And I think it actually poses a big problem to the rest of the lobby because these guys aren't going to let up on height. There's quite a few teams in this lobby who we could point out and say, this team wants to play height. If they're going to have a chance of qualifying for the LAN, they're probably going to have a couple good height games. Teeny and Shark aren't allowing it. And so you have to start to think, again, the teams like Yapko, the teams like Pablo, they're going to have a better chance because they're not even trying it, right? They're saying, hey, we ain't bothering with that. We're going to stay down here. And that's, you're going to help them be a bit more consistent.
Well, we've 4 games in, 4 more to go, so we'll kick those off after this break.
Teammates have his back. There's Nash. Gets the drop on the Marion. Stays alive. They're targeting out Vanya. 3v1.
Welcome back to the Reload Elite Series. Shark and Teeny have claimed respect from everyone in the region, and they're showing no signs of giving it back. There's complete and utter disrespect to anyone who's trying to take height, anyone who's trying to feel safe on this map. These boys are not moving or letting anyone else move an inch. But let's see who has moved on the leaderboard. You can see that that qualifying line has moved down, and that's because Shark and Teeny and Chino and Pablo Wingo have already qualified to the LAN Championship. So right now, Yapko and Panzer, Vico Malabuka, and Fast Roki and Bevies are looking like they might claim those tickets. However, we do have 4 more games to go tonight before we find that out. So let's take a look at Chino and Pablo in this last game, because it's fantastic to see them make it so far, Harry. And you know Chino so well. Did you expect this from him?
I mean, he is one of the most talented players we have right now, right? You saw it last year in trios, and to be honest, in the first couple of games, you were seeing, you know, a clutch from Pablo, a clutch from Chino, and it did end up, Chino, this game being a little bit of a clutch towards the end, but they're making it so deep into these end games of the duo when they're so stacked. It was towards like 20 players alive going into final moving, and being able to maneuver around that together and being able to stay alive and actually get refresh after refresh to get deeper into that end game. You saw there 9 elims, a big game, even if they didn't manage to get second or first, and they're not going down without a fight. You know, we're talking about Shark and Teeny, Yapko and Panzer. They're slowly sneaking up.
Go for it, Levin. I heard you had a thought there.
Oh no, that wasn't me. But
that wasn't. Oh, okay, that was okay, fine. Well, I'll take over then. So you Yapko and Panzer, like Harry, you were saying the fact that their average placement so far is 2.5. It's incredible to think that they were not even playing in February's qualifying final, and now they're here absolutely dominating. The game plan is absolutely on point. Do you think they are benefiting from the fact that there's no surge? They just don't have to think about that and factor that into their game plan?
Yeah, I mean, when you can just go endgame to endgame and you don't have to worry about, oh, who do I get surge on? Are we going to get 4 early because the mid games are so short? It just allows you to get that consistency going, get into that flow state, and at the moment they're just flying in these end games. Whether they're stacked, whether they're scuffed, they're just making it as far as they can, and even to a heal off at this point. So I'll be interested to see if anyone tries to stop them.
Well, we will find out, because it's time for game number 5.
Look, it might be Yapko and Panzer's first time in the Reload Elite Series finals, Takata, but they are not new to this. And with Game 5 underway, let's just see what happens.
It's got to be the most consistent performance we've seen so far. You know, despite we're only halfway through the tournament today, but 4th place, 3rd place, 2nd place, 1st place. These are their recent placements in these matches today. If they keep it up, we're going to see the most consistent team.
Wait. I saw elimination feed. I'm seeing Shark. I'm seeing Panzer. I know we're looking at Boom and Base right now. And granted, this is a very important off spawn, but things are definitely picking up all over the map right now, Takata. Glubshy and Prax, they've been going toe-to-toe with Swizzy and Pixie since the start of today's competition. Things have come to a little bit of a lull here. Pixie just trying to see if he can get this opportunity for the bank hit, but there's a lot of pressure right now at Steamy Stacks. Yapko has an elimination. Panzer 1-2, or Panzer waiting to see if he can secure one, but sparks are definitely flying.
I wonder if it's just Shark or if both of them decided to go con Steamy, but definitely you kind of hinted at it last game. They started rotating by Steamy. Shark and Teeny were playing passive, but also kind of on the hunt for Yapko and Panzer, and it looks like that trend is continuing in full force this time around, but we'll see if they end up getting into another tussle here. For now, Vico has kind of joined the party by Prax and Glubshy. Jumped right over his head, though.
Vico's just looking to intervene. There is more than enough loot still hanging around Slurpy Swamp, and while Malabuka's securing what he can for the duo, Vico is just trying to build up the elimination points. He's already got 1, so that's gonna be at least 3 that are good to go. Pablo and Chino also looking to get involved here, and they are just completely chasing down Josh, as Vico will also get an elimination onto Glubshy at the exact same moment. A lot of these big duos in the lobby, Takata, just looking to pop off as solos here.
Vico, Malabuka now, 2 on the board. Looking to see if they can continue this forwards as they Might want to be a little careful of the potential third party you can see on the east side here, but for now, they're more than healthy. Prax, Glubchi doing what they can to stay up, but Vico is just having so much value here. It looks like a disengage might be attempted, but it's not going to be possible with the shot connecting onto Prax. Matt's running low. Vico takes down Prax. Can he get the finish? Yes, he can. Right before going down. Hey, I'd say that's worth. That's a win in my books.
That is so much value right now for Vico because he loses nothing for it. He just gets 2 eliminations, interrupts Glubchi and Prax's loop path, takes a little bit of it even, uses it, so wasting resources that Glubchi and Prax could have otherwise maybe opted for later on, and now is going to leave them incredibly weak, which means other teams can start to come into the fold. Cringe flying through. Almost feel like Prax's life is definitely in danger there, but Teeny and Shark, they are still looking to hang around Dirty Docks for the most part. 2 eliminations though for Shark. That is big scenes here. Cringe on the receiving end though. Things completely turned around. They came looking for a fight and they found one. Prax and Glubchi have had enough. They are sick of these other teams looking to get involved at their POI.
And it's non-stop. I mean, Still Town is where the party is every single game. There's new people joining uninvited, but you know, at the same time, it can almost be a positive if you can get enough elims, but unfortunately, with the amount of times they've been not able to get good loot, Mats due to it, it's rough. Darn though, what a way to pick up an elimination on Flixie. I mean, I feel bad for Chap and Flixie. They've had a rough tournament so far, from winning the first match of the day to going down 19th, 17th, 14th. I mean, that is absolutely tragic for them, and they are going to need some massive games if they want to have a comeback.
And that was the second time, too, that we saw them really trying to challenge Darm and Deemish so early on. They've definitely got to hit the drawing board here, Takata, because if they continue faring in this way, their hopes of that top 3, their hopes of securing a quals, it's just not going to work out at this rate. Vico, Malabuka back in Slurpee. Josh and Bimbo just looking to see if they can escape here. And Vico, Malabuka definitely making their presence known. It looked like Kings fully in control here at Slurpee Swamp. And what makes it even worse is that for Chap and Flixie, they know Malabuka and Vico, they have so many resources now that they can just have complete control over.
Yeah, it's not as crazy as Slurpee this time around compared to previous matches at the same moment, but it looks like a sneaky play. Kashi Freerin. They're going to connect a couple shots, not enough for a knock, but just a sliver of HP left onto Gonzo. Pradaj now forced to take that pressure, keep his teammate alive. The slurp is dropped, and now they continue pushing on through, but so far, no knocks.
Cash in fear, and they were really hoping to just get that early confirmation knock. The fact is, just a little bit too little of damage. And now, Pradaj, the deed's been done. Gonzo, relatively healthy. They might even be able to turn this one now into their favor. Cash in fear and kind of recognizing the fact that, hey, we started this. We either need to finish it or get out, because Gonzo is definitely healthy enough now that this engagement just a little bit too dicey for them to try and tackle head on.
We'll see if they're actually able to get a successful disengage here, because there's so many duos already kind of boxed up right outside. But for now, looks quite well. The Strokey Bevies refarming up their hard mats, and they're going to stay here unless the zone tells them not to. I don't think they're going to look to get any aggression here, though.
Strokey and Bevies are in such a delicate position, though, Takata, because they are right on the cusp for that top 3 section of the leaderboard. They don't want to find themselves being removed early.
Yeah, I mean, they are literally the cutoff right now. Keeping in mind Shark Teeny and Pablo Chino both being in top 3, it means top 5 technically qualify for the $2.5 million land. So they're at 146 points. The duo below them is Pradaj and Gonzo at 127. So all they got to do is keep it up. But Pradaj and Gonzo, or even Dharma Deemish, get a big game. could bump them out.
And you know that both of those duos are respectively going to be looking for it. Karama and Akira also a little bit of a pickle here right now. Shark and Teeny. A lot of people were kind of speculating how aggressive were Shark and Teeny going to actually be against this French duo, because Akira and Karama have seemed a little bit on fire lately. Their stock has definitely been rising in the comm, and if Shark and Teeny are able to prevent a strong competitor from challenging them later on by blocking their qual possibilities here today, that is only upside for Shark and Teeny, and would just be so devastating, I think, for the French community, but maybe they'll be able to turn things around. It's going to be tough, though, because Shark and Teeny, they are not the sort to just let someone get off scot-free.
It's interesting, because if you look at Shark and Teeny's match history, they've gotten 3 eliminations twice, 2 eliminations once, but then randomly an 11 elimination second place. So it's interesting to kind of see the switch up, but it looks like overall they are just playing a bit more passive than we thought originally, but also they kind of have Yapko Panzer in mind. They're like, if we see them, we're willing to risk it all to take them out. And Yapko Panzer, they might know this. Might be part of the reason they're playing as safe as they are, but whatever they're doing, it's clearly working. The most consistent duo we've seen so far. If they get another top 3, top 5, probably going to be a record for these finals, despite only being the second qualifier final, but nice little rotate in.
Yeah, for Yapko Panzer especially, though, you have to anticipate that Shark and Teeny are going to off-spawn contest you eventually. You don't know if it's going to be in the next lobby or even the one after that, but if they maintain their position at the top of the leaderboard, Shark and Teeny have been consistently challenging duos whenever they have been in that possible tie position of trying to overthrow first place. They are not afraid to look for that all or nothing type of off spawn, and it's always going to be in the back of Panzer and Yakko's mind.
We can't count out the prize pool too, you know. Shark Teeny, they already qualified, but it's a $10,000 difference going from second to first. So hey, they could also have that prize in mind. Teamish Darm, though, they want more than just the prize. They want that qualifying spot at the LAN, and currently being 7th place, where top 5 is enough to qualify them with the current leaderboard. One good game is all they could need.
Right now, it's a little bit of what we consider, I think, the eye of the storm here. Things seem calm on the surface, but it's only a matter of moments before the action really starts to kick off here. Reboots soon to be disabled. Just another minute or so. And Shark, Teeny, Zone Pool, Dirty Docks, the stars seemingly starting to align here for this duo. They might be looking for the performance of a lifetime in Game 5.
That stat is crazy too, by the way. Shark Teeny having spent more time on height than the rest of the lobby combined is ridiculous. It just shows how dominant they've been on that high ground. I would have liked to see, you know, Swizzy and Pixie have a bit more chances, but with their drop spot being constantly contested, they're having a rough time being very healthy in these late games. But, you know, still a good amount of matches left. A lot could still change and happen. For Vico and Malabuka, though, they're currently in qualifying range, and they want to maintain it.
A couple of pads to work with, too. So Fizz pad still an option for Vico and Malabuka if they want to make a little bit of a later arrival. I think it'll really just be down to the team on height to kind of keep tabs on the overhead space above them. But knowing that Shark and Teeny have implemented that same strategy in just another lobby earlier on today, it's definitely going to be something that they're for sure going to be wary of. And that height statistic really comes into play. You were talking about them being, you know, very controlling from the high ground, Takata, but it also just showcases how excellent they are at just spatial awareness for where everybody else is in the lobby, because it's not just about applying pressure, it's also making sure that other teams can't challenge your position. And Shark and Teeny, they seem to have really got things figured out for the high ground.
I'm excited to see if that trend continues now. We'll have another shot of it here. I mean, zone literally pulled to their drop spot, so you can assume they're as stacked as you can be. That's now quite a passive rotate so far. No big focus is happening, but I might have spoken too soon. truly almost knocked Darm cracked, because now players do what they can to get to the 7 zone.
Darm and Deemish seemed like they wanted to get an early lead towards that front side low ground position, but might have bit off a little bit more than they can chew for the time being. Rest of the lobby kind of collapsing inwardly around them. They are surrounded right now. It's Bevies, great elimination there onto Cringe. Have the body loop to go for eventually, but on the other side of his wall, just as he's trying to take a moment to heal, he's immediately pressured inward. Pablo and Chino also trying to see what they could do. A little bit of a look back here of what went wrong there for Cringe. It was just such a quick confirmation on the elimination shot there. Not a whole lot left to be done.
So far, early, Zynox currently holding that kind of, I would say, height position. The issue is Zone is pulling to the opposite side, so it becomes tough to maintain it and very expensive if you try. So wouldn't be surprised if they opt to kind of use a mobility item instead and get ahead, as many players are currently doing.
It's one thing to move forward, it's another to actually be able to establish a little bit of space here. Yepko, Panzer, they've done a great job at tarping out inside of the low ground. Also fully aware, Size and Scary, just one layer above them is now Pradaj, Gonzo. They're gonna look to take a stab towards height. Trying to make sure that they've got their connections where necessary. A bit of Flowberry Fizz too. At this stage, a chomp would not be, you know, the end-all be-all for them, but they are definitely within range of shockwave grenades to reach them, so they definitely need to be careful and make sure that they are applying more than enough pressure to prevent teams like Yepko and Panzer from going upwards. Glubsheet cracks. If they're not careful, Yepko and Panzer might be able to clean up one of them. Darm, Deemish, still front side low. That is the focal point.
Big place to be. Shark Teeny, though, opting also to play a bit lower this time around, as Teeny's been almost cracked. Healthy on materials, though. What the issue is they need to group up, as Deemish Darm applying a significant amount of pressure. They see Teeny go ahead of zone and use that med miss, but be careful, or Gonzo and Pradaj gonna be aware enough to know the amount of players above them lurking.
Just waiting for Vico and Malabuka to kind of do a little bit of a standoff here, Wavy and Josh, but they're going to go up and then immediately right back down. Don't think that they want to try and challenge this one just yet, but it is going to force Vico and Malabuka to look for an earlier touchdown instead. Gonzo and Pradaj still trying to apply some pressure, but now the chop is successful. Vico, Malabuka from secondary height, just waiting to be fully healthy. I think the high ground is truly what they are after here right now. Already starting to look up. They still have one more pad to work with, and sure enough, they just want to remain out of sight, out of mind, let the lobby sort itself out.
Seeing this a lot more than the first finals. Now, the Fizz pad getting put to use, conserving a significant amount of mats and basically getting these 3 rotates without the pressure on them. But meanwhile, Yepko Panzer in the midst of it. Pressure from above, pressure from the sides, walls being broken every second, floor being deleted by a shockwave. But they're staying together, staying healthy, and a big pump is gonna come through.
Great job there from Panzer, just looking for the cutoff. And teams just don't even have a moment to respond. Pradaj and Gonzo, it flew too close to the sun. Pradaj gonna be the first one eliminated, but we've seen Gonzo time and time again from that solo position, clutch up in big moments. Yepko, Panzer willing to tank a little bit of storm for frontside control. They do have them as grenades. Pablo and Chino, some successes in the backside of zone. They find another elimination for their second total, but Shark and Teeny, Shark relatively low, does have a slurp juice. Be forced to use a little bit earlier than he wanted to, but Deemish, nice cleanup onto Gonzo. That'll be the end of the Italian spree here, but Panzer losing Yepko along the way. It is not his first rodeo. It is not his first endgame as a solo either, but this is a desperate position here now, Takada. He doesn't have a whole lot of materials left to work with. He's going to be forced to use the last little bit of his fizz, and Pablo just cleaning house in the low ground, finding that elimination onto Faded, but it's just not enough. He doesn't really get much benefit from stealing away that elim. And now Panzer cycling through, no more shockwaves remain. He's just gonna be forced into an all-out brawl here. Wavy gonna come out on top though, and that'll be the end for Panzer and Yepko.
Vico, Malabuka earlier on though, they were able to take height, as now Deemish Darm has lost his teammate. Deemish is forced alone, and he knows how important this match is. They are not currently in qualifying range, but with the top 3, with a win, it would be more than enough to put them up. But Vico, are you serious? Goes down to fall damage, leaving Malabuka alone. They finally got height, and now Deemish capitalizes. The perfect timing comes through. Just 38 HP, and the Fizz gets popped.
Absolutely devastating there for Vico and Malabuka, but there's only so much left to be done. Shark now gonna be cleaned up in the backside. Lusha and Howley, this is the performance that they needed to come up big time for the leaderboard. Gaps and Lusha with the confirmation on the victory royale there, but a big moment they needed to deliver, and the fact that they were able to find it, Takata, incredible scenes. Frankie, Levin, Harry, what's going on?
Well, it was exactly what Lusha and Howley needed. They weren't necessarily threatening the top 3, but now they're hopefully putting themselves into contention. Levin, how did they manage to steal that one?
Well, look, not in the manner in which you would expect if you know anything about Lucia as a player. This guy is a guy who has been addicted to playing high ground since, the early days. I remember back when I started out and he was playing back then, he was always a player who would play high. You look at the first reload, Frankie, he was playing with Mappy, a different teammate, and they both had the most time on height of any of the duos in the lobby, right? And so this is a high player. This game, again, I talked about the concerns I had, Harry, about teams trying to play high in the lobby with how Teeny and Shark had been approaching it. Those guys, again, switched up their approach and it benefited them greatly.
Yeah, it seems we're having a kind of a meta shift, to be honest. We'd expect going into this loads of shockwaves onto height, and what we're seeing is a bunch of launch pads, and if you're not carrying launch pads into endgame, it doesn't feel like you can really take height off, when teams are so high up, that like Malabuka and Vigo were. Obviously, there was a bit of a tumble, which was unfortunate, but when that happens, you have to capitalize on it. You have to understand that, okay, this is our moment to get the win, whether it was the way you expected or not, and Lusha and Howley, they did exactly that, and as you said, pushing them up the leaderboard for sure.
Well, I'm going to shockwave us into a break situation, and when we come back, we'll be talking even more about game number 5. Don't judge me, 11-2K.
Daytime is back. There's Nash. Gets the drop on Amarius. Stays alive. They're targeting out Vanya. 3v1.
3 more games remain in tonight's Reload Elite series, and it's starting to look very tight at the top. So let's take a look at the leaderboard and see what changes have occurred after 5 games. Panzer and Yapko still proving themselves to be incredibly consistent. I believe it was a top 3 finish in that last game. But we've got to talk about Vico and Malabuka. Currently, they must be confident that they have the opportunity of booking their LAN spot. It's not entirely confirmed yet, but they're getting stronger from game to game, it feels like, Levin.
Yes, again, we all expected them to do much better during this qualifier final. They were surprise cons after game 1, Harry. You know, the Spaniards, Science and Scary were like, we're gonna come land on you guys. But they handled it so incredibly well. This was a bit unfortunate here. This was sort of what ended this game. Yeah, I think Vico would rather us not replay that. I actually did message him in the break to ask him what happened there. And he just kind of said, yeah, I don't know, but it is what it is. We're playing well, so we're gonna keep going in qual, right? So it's good to know that it's not completely rattled them and the momentum is gonna continue, hopefully.
I have every faith personally that they are going to manage to confirm it after the next couple of games. Demus and Dom, though, they massively disappointed themselves and their fans. I have to say, it sounds horribly harsh saying it out loud like that in the first finals. However, now they're picking up the pace as we go on. Demus was able to confirm that elimination on Malabuka to get themselves a 2nd spot. Harry, do you have any concerns about them going to these last few games?
Not so much. There was a game in the midway point where they were getting fought in the early game, right? And obviously we know in Reload, we talked about a bunch today, that if you get your early mid game a bit messed up, you end up struggling in the end games with how stacked they are. And at the moment, recently in the past couple of games, they've been managing to fix that really well. Obviously getting a 2nd place there, good game before that. And right, these are 2 very talented players we have. And I think if they can keep the consistency in the early mid game going, and they'll show their strengths in the end game, and they showed it last game, and they should be showing it more often.
When you look at this leaderboard, Levin, it does feel like order is in order, right? This was a less stacked lobby, I would argue, than we saw in the first finals, and I don't think anyone's looking like they're going to threaten the jurors we're expecting to put their spots. Although, we have to say, Bevies, do you think that he could be a disruptor here?
I mean, he's been performing well, so why not? I think there's a couple more games up for grabs, so we'll see some more teams rising. But ultimately, I think the teams we're seeing do incredibly well are some of the teams people expected, because the game plan is set in place. The consistency has been there and the execution has been top. So it's good to see great players playing well.
Yeah, and if you try and deny Shark and Tina their space, they're going to shut you down. Let's head to game number 6.
Getting close. It's getting close, Taco. Vestroki, Bevies, they did a good job, but not better than Deemish and Darim, who are now holding that cutoff to qualify themselves to the LAN. They have 32 more points, more than Vestroki and Bevies, so let's see if that changes, because the next game is ready to go.
With game 6 now underway, we've already seen a little bit of map shift development. So many more teams are kind of sending out just one lone wolf player. Hey, try and figure out whatever eliminations you can build. But Flixie and Chap, they have sort of hit a wall in a sense here at Takata, because these last few lobbies have just not netted out in their favor, and even the slightest bit, falling short of even meeting the placement points metrics, and they are going to need every little point that they can scrounge up for these next 3 games if they want to throw themselves into the contention of that cutoff for the leaderboard to see whether or not they actually secure their LAN spot qual.
Yeah, I mean, from the first game that they won, they've then averaged like 17th place maybe, so they honestly are gonna need like to win every single game here, but you know, you could still go for the prize pool as well. Vico though, not quite going his way this time around, trying to do what he can away from the drop spot. Last time, I believe it was at Stilt Town, and he picked up 1, but Koarma is gonna get the elim this time around.
And it's no real surprise to see Vico kind of going on tour. But with Flixie and Chap still lurking nearby in Slurpy Swamp, that could pose a little bit of a threat now. Swizzy, on the other hand, finally gets what he's after here in Stilt Town. Clean eliminations just mean that when it's short and concise, you'll have a lot more time to just focus on an uninterrupted loop path.
Just sworn in the feed. I saw some back and forths with Yapko Panzer early on, but it might have just been a knock, no full elim. As so far, Zynox and Truly are kind of leaving them alone. Quick replay from Glebshy Prax. Nice elim onto Swizzy.
A lot of back and forth. It's to be expected. Stilttown has definitely been a central hub of action in today's competition. But now Flixie and Chav, they just want to get anything going. They've got to get the ball rolling. They're hoping that they might be able to scout out. Maybe it's our turn to aggress the Spaniards and see if we can pick up an elimination or two. That plan will be cut short. Instead, it's going to be an isolated solo here. No, Scary. He's going to try and reconvene, but his efforts are cut short. Completely separated from his duo, but Flixie just eating way too much damage. Saya's doing a great job just buying time. They might be split, but they're really not that far apart. Instead, Flixie eliminated Saya's one more time. Gonna look to break through. Cap scrambling to just try and stay alive. He can't afford to go out just yet. He needs to make sure that Flixie gets that reboot off. And the Spaniards they're so intent on trying to chase this one down. They'll finally let it go. They know. They dive a little bit too far, then they run the risk of being picked off along the way. So they'll just sit tight for a moment here, but Chap and Flixie, they just cannot seem to find any ground to work with.
It's rough. It honestly is, but you know, good news is they didn't both get eliminated. They were able to kind of get out of that and now spend a bit of time to recuperate what they lost. Shark and Teeny, incredible loadout so far. Upper hand in this engagement, and Shark should be able to clean this one up quite easily. As Teeny now has recuperated his shield as well, and once again, they are looking incredibly dominant.
And poor Akira hasn't been spotted just yet. Mate is going to draw a little bit more of the attention from Teeny and Shark for the time being. Well, Akira just continues to kind of hover around the southern portion of Dirty Docks. But Shark, Teeny, adamant to keep looking. The search party is not over just yet, but this is one lost and found that doesn't want to be discovered anytime soon here. And Kurama, he might be able to play a little bit of backup, a little bit of supportive fire just in case. But it is a dangerous game to play with Shark and Teeny. They have quite literally nothing to lose here, Takata, aside from prize pool positioning.
Looks like Shark was able to pick up one. Wasn't Akira, though. Meanwhile, Pablo Chino continuing to do what they've been doing throughout the whole day. No issues at all. Flixie Chap, are they going to play more aggressive here? They really got to make something happen. It doesn't have to be in the early game, though. Could just be some solid end games as they're kind of just positioning themselves currently, but Deemish Dharm might not be too happy with that.
Almost starting to think that Chap and Flixie might have even just stolen away the loot from Deemish and Dharm, because we didn't see any eliminations there for Chap and Flixie. We do see 2 for Dharm, and that little loot pile, though, that Chap and Flixie were able to kind of hand it off with, that's always nice. But Swizzy, Pixie, what's even nicer still is having more eliminations. But Strokey just barely hanging on by a thread here, and with a very healthy Swizzy and Pixie just kind of raining down from every direction. There's only so many places left to run. He will eventually be knocked and taken out. Still has the opportunity to reboot, but he'll have to figure out where exactly he can touch down on, because Glevshy and Prax, Swizzy, Pixie, both of these duos just have a very firm grasp with Stilttown right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on. Stilttown is very popular. But Pixie, Swizzy, so far have done a great job managing it to the extent that they can. Teeny has been knocked, though. It looks like they were handling it perfectly, but I don't know, something might have went wrong. Kurama, Akira choosing to disengage a bit here, but Shark, despite losing Teeny, he's not finished as he looks to pick up one more elimination.
It's Shark. He has zero fear, especially when it comes down to a 1v1. He is an absolutely crazy opponent to try and win that exchange with. But he's not going to be alone for much longer. Teeny has rebooted. Not only that, though, Matez also diving back into the mix. Gonna save his duo for right now. The Shark, Teeny, they'd rather reorient themselves, focus more on ensuring that Teeny is healthy enough for them to play their mid and end game.
Yeah, quick back off as Medmits come through. A lot of items being used up to stay up here, but they're going to opt to go back in the zone, and hopefully Josh Wavy don't get a repeat from a couple games ago, as we see a replay of how Swizzy was able to pick up Fastroki. This is devastating for Bevies and Fastroki, being one placement off qualifying range to the LAN, and Darm Demish looking so strong in this match. Hopefully they're able to do something.
A lot less hopeful, though, when you know that it's a duo like Swizzy and Pixie that are really chasing after you right now. Pablo and Chino. But this is kind of a team that I highlighted at the start of the day, and it seems like they've started to build up a little bit here now in Takata. You know, you never want to count your eggs before they hatch. Truly and Zynax still have quite a ways to go in these remaining 3 lobbies, but it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish when it comes to this kind of format. And we already saw one big pop-up performance and how much it impacted their actual placement in the overall leaderboard, broke into the top 10.
Gonna move up now, more center zone. You can even recuperate some metal on this bridge. Yapko, Panzer on the opposite end. Malibuka Vico down below. A lot of big names in this vicinity.
Not really a fan of this, though, for Pradaj and Gonzo compared to what's nearby. They definitely seem to be in the weakest standing, just loadout and health-wise. But they're going to remain undercover for right now, sticking to that ultimate low. Malibuka and Vico, on the other hand, seem to be sizing up the competition, trying to determine whether or not they want to strike just yet. And Teeny, Shark, they love these lurk plays. Wavy. Oh, the medkit's such a trap here. They're just waiting. Josh might have a chance to catch a glimpse of Shark and Teeny. You have to remember, they've got to use his Medmist grenade eventually, but they left that medkit as bait whole day long. And Josh knows it. He's going to be next on the tracks. Shark in pursuit. Josh will survive, amazingly enough. And I believe he bought just enough time. No. And Shark, he's going to fall victim to losing a little bit too much HP. I mean, the 2-tick storm, that's where things can become a little bit of a problem here.
They were in zone for so long. I think Wavy Josh would have thought, you know, there's no way they're still here, right? And we've been in zone for this long, but it's always a chance, especially in reload. I mean, I think I saw 40 players up. Not a single player has been fully eliminated. You can see in the top left, we've had a lot of reloads coming through, but no duo completely out of the game yet. Most stacked match so far, already being in 6th zone. Whole lobby still up and running. This is going to be a very chaotic mid to late game.
That's why Shark didn't care in the slightest, though, about getting initially knocked. Slightly careless, but when you have MS grenades, when you have the entirety of the mending left over too, he cleared it out. That's the biggest issue, because Joshua Wavy, they're not even going to be able to utilize anything from that space. I'm fairly confident that Shark and Teeny absolutely left no remains there, so it's going to be very difficult for that duo to actually work their way out of Dirty Docks. Pablo, Chino, slightly different sites here. Chap, Flixie overhead, and we're approaching stage now for Flixie and Chap where you're not really able to get that momentum going at the start of the game, but they're still able to just cling on long enough that I think they are going to recognize the fact that they need to be aggressive, because they're going to need elimination points along with some strong placements if they want to overtake for the leaderboard.
Yeah, I might see them go for an all or nothing type of play here, but we're about to reach reloads getting disabled with every single player alive still, so this is crazy.
I'm not even the least bit shocked, though, Takata, because every single one of these duos has kind of acknowledged the fact that you're never really out. You still got a dog in this fight as long as at least one of you is left standing, because The only thing you can really control is your own performance, but some of these other teams, if they start clashing a little bit too much with each other, and then you just get to have that slow and steady wins the race type of mentality. You never really know how many points you can really build up for that leaderboard action overall. And Vico Malabuka, very similar methods from these loadouts right now, Takata. We saw just how effective it was for them in that last lobby with the fizz pad plays, and I'm waiting to see if they choose to take their chances with it yet again here.
I want to see a big game from Vico Malabuka. They lost out. I think they got 4th place. So they lost out on over 20 points of placement by going down when they did with the prime position they had. So hopefully we can see another top 5 game at least from them this time around. Good to see Fastroki and Bevies doing what they can. Had a rough early game, but one elim is all it's going to take to get the refresh. And I spoke too soon on Malabuka as now he's knocked down. Vico left alone to try and bring his teammate back up. Hopefully his opponents don't full push him here, but with the pressure on, dropped into another player's box. It's only a matter of time until Vico goes down.
Wait a second, I lost track of Vico.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, there was just so much pressure. The entirety of the lobby just seemingly deciding, okay, this is the area that we are all going to spray simultaneously. But Yapko Panzer, they're also in a pretty tough position here. They're going to be forced to go all the way down. They have managed to find a little bit of an isolated spot, but Faded Vision and Khan, they're just trying to get towards front side. Quickly as the next duo, Pablo and Chino will find a knock onto Teeny. That's going to leave Shark in a detrimental position, but Pablo's got to be really careful with this one. You can't just go all in from the jump. Shark is still there lingering, but Sharky doesn't have a whole lot of HP to work with, and he'll be taken out. The revive for Teeny is all he was after. He did such a great job pushing Pablo back, but it came at such a steep cost.
A huge opportunity now for all the players down below. A lot of big names at the top of the leaderboard have been knocked out already. As for Strokey Bevies choosing to play below, but it's going to be Pixie, Swizzy up on height. They held it for 8 out of 8 games in the heats, and now they're looking to do the same here in finals.
And not only that, but they don't have to worry about Shark and Teeny contesting them for it. They're not going to have to worry about Vico Malabuka either, but they will be concerned with Truly and Zynox playing from that secondary height. Granted, Deemish Darm might just do the dirty work for him. It's Pablo, another solo, another one of our leading teams here. But he can still put a lot of damage into this lobby. And Truly, Zynox from way up overhead. Swizzy and Pixie did a great job the last time we saw them in a controlling height position. They're Takata at shooting down Sharkatini when they went for the fizz pad play. So will they do the same for Truly and Zynox?
So far, they're getting a free rotate, and they don't want to risk it if they don't know there's anybody above them. Bevies for Strokey doing what they can to stay ahead. Deemish Storm looking for another big game. They've already cemented themselves in qualifying range, and other top 3 or top 5 could push them even higher and secure that spot as they get ahead and get closer to second height. Taking peeks up above, they might go for a retake.
Deemish and Darm don't want it to be close, though. They're going to look to just chop out height instead. They want to try and manage their current position. Chap just doing what he can to try and stay up on his feet. Shields falling so incredibly low. That HP just depleting at such a rapid rate here. But Pablo from overhead, he's going to drop down immediately. Pablo finds the big shots onto Bevies. The elimination he needed right in the nick of time, but for Strokey, still guarding the body, doesn't want to let it go for free. Pablo, deep backside of zone though, he's going to still have to try and work his way forward. Is now Deemish Darm firmly in control of this secondary height layer, but Pablo doing everything in his power to try and secure as many placement points as he can muster up here. Faded Pigeon and Khan also moments before they clash head-on with Darm and Deemish.
Glove sheet cracks though. Holding on strong, they're healthy, they have mats, they're trying to get back ahead of zone, but Swizzy and Pixie have held on to height. They overthrew Deemish Storm when they tried contesting them, as now they've used a lot of materials, but still looking incredibly healthy. 72 builds. The issue is Deemish Storm, after trying to contest height, they ran out of a majority of their builds. Now they're ahead of zone using that med mist, but they're going to need a refresh soon.
But they're playing from that front side position, so they're able to look back and just see if they can encounter Faded and Khan. After all, sure enough, Deemish gonna recognize, hey, there's still a team about a layer up from where we're currently at. And they'll be forced to drop down. They need a chance to try and recuperate some of those shields, but Strokey still running as well as a solo. Pablo still hanging on. 0 builds remain. It is an elimination or nothing at this stage for him. He's going to have to find one ASAP. Another duo just underneath. These are his edits. He finds a big opening shot, but it's not the full damage he needs to confirm the knock. Just one more good play shot could be the difference maker here, but he can't see through the Megas grenade and firing. Gonna take full advantage for it. But Strokey now underneath one of our other few solos in this lobby right now, and he is doing everything in his power to try and pickaxe through these pre-existing builds, but backside of zone, there's so much to work through.
Solos showing dominance as Devish. He's got to be careful. Goes down to Storm. Gets a decent placement, but is it going to be enough to hold on as now Swizzy Pixie have done an amazing job of holding height this whole end game, basically, as Lusha Howley now pick up another. They're down in the dirt, full low as players dropping down like flies. They cannot miss their shots here. They're out of materials, but Swizzy has been launched all the way down. He has 3 more shockwaves. He's going to try getting back up, but truly is going to be on the receiving end.
A little bit of Siphon coming through in that final hour, though, and truly will be cut short. Low ground claims another. Swizzy, Pixie, back up on top, back in the driver's seat. Painted Pigeon underneath, though. Great elimination onto Hallie. That Siphon just going to continue helping him tarp his way forward. But Faded and Gone, they are just waiting for the prime opportunity to strike. Swizzy doesn't need to do anything, though. He's got Pixie underneath to finish everything else off. That was a big showing, though, out of Swizzy and Pixie. A lobby that they definitely needed a huge win in here at Takata. And that Victory Royale's got to be feeling oh so good right now. Frankie, let us hear it.
And Pixie and Swizzy were not looking pretty for a spot in the LAN finals before that game. Will it be enough? We're not quite sure. However, Levin, it definitely looked like they were in control of the situation, probably for the first time all evening.
Yeah, finally showcasing why, we both considered them one to watch, right? We knew they were a hype team. We knew they were a team that were going to be aggressive for it. We saw that a bit in the first game, and it just seemed to fall off completely. There were so many end games today where we just weren't even seeing them participate in them, Harry. And so it's good to see them finally pick up some momentum, but they have a mountain to climb, even with that win, to be able to put themselves in a good spot to qualify it.
Yeah, it's a tough task for them. They contested at Stilt Town, so not only is your early game tough, now later we get into the tournament, more teams need that win. More teams need the pop-off performances, so their playstyle towards high ground's only going to get harder and harder. And to be honest, it might be too little too late, but we're going to have to wait and see.
Are these players that need leadership, Levin? Is that naive for me to say?
Well, look, it was always the question asked of this duo, right? The double fragger duo, is this gonna work? I think last time we had duos in EU, obviously it was, Vico and Flixie that was so successful as sort of like more double fragger, was super aggressive. And I think coming back into it, people thought we're gonna see similar with Swizzy and Pixie, and it's not quite been there yet, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. I think in these two players' case, we're gonna keep asking those questions if they keep having tournaments like this.
And we'll have plenty more questions in a few minutes.
Gets the drop on the Marius, stays alive. They're targeting out Vanya. 3v1. If you miss, you gon' regret it. Before you crawl, know I'm running it out. I'm built up like a pharaoh, now they praying carve my name. I gave my life into my place, earned everything that I claimed. Nothing ever could replace me. 3-4-3-4, square dance on the floor. This is not a ball, I'm above it all. Starlight, see my glow, where you supposed to go? Proceed on the low, can't lose and find the go. Leave me in the zone, I take your mind and then I snatch your soul. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than harder go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. I get it, they love my whole steady. They got so listen, told you this ain't hypothetical. Answer the call, prove this once and for all. Can't reach me with an arrow, summer nights I never fall. No cattle, the goat don't wear a saddle. Go riders off my body, cut them off, they yakking sloppy. Already, I consume the petty. The vision's 2020, believe your eyes are winning. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know
Welcome back to the Reload Elite Series. If you just tuned in, you probably would be surprised to hear that Swizzy and Pixie picked up a victory royale. But if you've been watching all night, you'll probably be surprised because they haven't necessarily had the best night so far. They're finally showing up in the lobby. We'll see very soon if they can really find some consistency going into the last 2 games. Let's take a look at the leaderboard though, because we definitely have had a shift at the top. Khan and Faded, they got a victory royale. They very nearly got a second in that last game, Coach Harry. And this is a duo I didn't necessarily have my best hopes for going into this one, just because they're such big hitters, and I didn't have them down as one of them, and I feel like I was wrong.
For sure, I think this team kind of went under the radar, to be honest. You have so many aggressive teams who want to fight and want action to happen that we didn't really talk about Faded and Khan, and you can kind of think of them as a mini Vico and Flixie or Chap and Flixie, just 2 good German fighters, one of them being Controller and Khan. And I mean, they're showing it here. Like, they're not even getting huge elimination games similar to Teeny and Shark, and they're still able to get deep into the end games. They're still able to get to points where, you know, it's the final moments, the small moments of, can we take out height? Can we maybe shockwave up and maybe fight them for it? And to be honest, they're looking really, really solid. And if they keep it up, I have no reason to see why they can't qualify for the LAN.
Are you excited to potentially see them on LAN, Levin?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, we look, regardless of who makes it out of the EU, I'm going to be backing them for sure, right? Because I just want to see EU boys continue to dominate at these LAN events, you know? It feels good to be able to say that after a couple of years now, but I'm sure they would be a fun team to watch and would represent well, yeah.
But will they be able to dominate? I'm so interested to pick your brains on that one. If they make it through, I'm guessing I'll be able to. But right now, we've got to head back to our casters. It's time for Game 7.
You're not fooling anybody, Levin. We all know you are NAC's #1 supporter, okay? Social media would never lie to the rest of us. But, Takada, Game 7 about to be underway. And that leaderboard was looking very spicy with just the way that things are starting to line up.
Yeah, 4th and 5th tied on points. What, 20-point difference between qualifying range and 7th? So a lot is going to happen in these final matches, and I'm excited to see it. Demish Dharm have held on so far to that cutoff, but they're tied in points with Khan and Faded. The battle bus is ready, so let's head right into game number 7.
And one of the moments that everybody's kind of been waiting for is to see whether or not Swizzy and Pixie are going to be able to replicate that big pop-up performance they just had. But things are really heating up here at Steamy Stacks. The whole lobby's invited, by the way, and Yapko Panzer, they're going to be some of the first to find an elimination here. But truly, Zynox, Hallie as well off in the distance. Believe it was just so many teams kind of trying to figure out, hey, maybe it is the perfect opportunity to try and look for a little bit of a surprise con here, but it just doesn't always work in your favor. Swizzy Pixie, on the other hand, Stiltown, it's been bumping since the get-go, Takada.
Oh no, I think I saw Demish get knocked at Steamy, and Dharm actually also went down shortly after. One of the duos has been completely knocked out. If it's them, that's going to be tragic, but Cracks and Glebchi for now. Stiltown just getting what they can as quickly as possible because they know how popular of a spot this is.
definitely be tragic scenes for Darm and Deemish if that's the case, but Pixie, Swizzy, they're looking to shut down the dreams right now of Glubshi and Prax. They've already got Glubshi. Now they just need to take out Prax, but they're not going to have the chance just yet. And it is Deemish and Darm that have been confirmed for the full elimination. They are our first duo to be taken out here, Takada. It is going to come down to a Game 8 performance for them, but we don't have time to think about that right now because scenes here at Stilt Town are just still continuing to build. Prax, Glubshi, hiding, Pixie, Swizzy destroying everything. There won't be much of Stilt Town left at this rate as Prax barely managing to stay alive himself. Shockwave picked up, Crash Pad comes out, and Prax with nowhere left to run. He knows that this is the end of the road. He'll have to hedge his bets on that next reboot. But with Pixie and Swizzy looking at him, that's dangerous.
Might be a long shot, but I believe they were literally like 18th place, Swizzy Pixie. With the last match getting the victory royale, it's bumped them to 11th place, and they're not even that far behind the cutoff. If they get another win here, even a top 3, with 2 more matches to be played out, it's definitely possible to see one of the biggest comebacks we've seen in the Reload Finals. But Chino goes down to Howley and Lusha. What are we seeing?
Howley was hiding at the bottom of this cliff for I don't even know how long. I caught a glimpse of him when we were looking at that action over in Stilt Town, and the fact of the matter that he's able to find elimination points onto Chino there, that is a pretty big turnaround, but it's not going to be anywhere near enough, Takada. He just only had one build. There's nowhere that he could possibly try and swim off to. Pablo and Chino will have the final laugh here, but at least Ali was able to find one elimination. That's still points.
Shark, though, gonna go down to Akira Kurarma. Good news is Teeny's still up and running. Hopefully Shark doesn't get kind of farmed here out of the air. Quick replay of what went wrong. Hit a nice initial shot, but I guess his teammate just came back after.
Why does it always look so easy when Shark does it, though, man? He's just smooth. His mechanical capabilities are just obscene at his age, but Teeny masterminding another Game 7 performance here. Shark Teeny gonna take a moment. This Volko cringe. Now realizing gotta go on the aggressive here up against Prax. They know that this is a player that's been consistently having to play for the reboots, and everybody wants to punish for elimination points on the duos that don't really have a leg to stand on.
If Prax goes down here, though, Glubshi just got eliminated. Prax has to do what he can to stay up as long as possible, so his teammate reloads back in. And it looks like he's done it. With the knock, he gets eliminated. Glubshi in the sky now cannot get taken out. This is one of the teams that are quite close to qualifying range, with now Darm and Deemish being eliminated in a 5th place, 220 points. It opens up that qualifying range for the players right below, and Glubshi Prax are one of them, alongside Malabuka Vico being the team literally right under Deemish and Darm, 10 points behind them. Now with already an Elam on the board, they're getting closer and closer to taking that land spot.
And the worst part about it still for Darm and Deemish, where you've really got to feel that gut-sinking feeling. Malabuka, Vico, they are timing it between Prax and Glubshi, waiting for the other to begin their reboot. Vico immediately starting to go for the hunt, but he's done toying with this food. Another duo wiped out here. Glubshi and Prax won't have an opportunity to try and extend any more placement or even elimination points. That's just going to be 3 quick elims. Malabuka and Vico. But Akira is trying to take matters into his own hands now. Rudy Kashi. Don't know if they're fully aware of the fact they're a little bit too preoccupied with making sure that they don't get collapsed on by Shark and Teeny. This lurk play by Akira, the moment they break through this wall, if they see him, oh, sure enough, it's been spoiled. Akira didn't want to take the risk of being 2 players versus 1.
Yeah, potential to get boxed up there. Made the noise when he dropped down. No longer pursuing. Volko cringe. Nothing too close to them. They're gonna make their way more center zone. Gonna go towards the loot drops. Get a sneak peek at the next zone.
And every little bit counts here, especially for a team like Volca and Cringe. They've already watched other duos on the leaderboard send themselves forward off of a big pom-pom performance, hoping they could try and more or less do the same with these last couple of remaining lobbies. But Teeny and Shark still hanging out at Dirty Docks. Not too many teams feeling bold enough to really want to try and challenge them for that. If anything, it's always just moments of desperation why we see players in their space trying to escape from other teams that are just chasing them down for reboot points. But Fired and Cashy, if they're not, if they overextend just a little bit, that'll be all the space that a team like Shark and Teeny needs to look for more eliminations.
Flixie goes down on the feed. Chino Pablo continuing the safe route. Kind of see a bit of the top four. The top four is a lot more separated than 8th through 5th. It's incredibly close. Even 9th through 10th through 5th, honestly. The whole mid-section of the leaderboard right outside of the LAN qual is incredibly close. It's like 20 points that separates them, 25. So after this match, there are going to be some big changes to the leaderboard.
For sure, and I think a bigger switch up too is that for some of these duos where they've been sending out, you know, just one member to go hunt down extra eliminations, play a little bit of spoiler, interrupt some loot paths early on. Well, if you keep doing that, other teams are going to eventually notice, hey, that means that one of you is a solo at your original drop spot. And I think for, you know, take example, Darman Deemish. That's what got them cleaned up so early on. And it's just something where you now have to kind of reevaluate, is this the same method that we want to employ with our final game of the day? Because that could be the end of the road for the Reload Elite Series Finals Qual 2 here. And those land spots, I mean, everybody wants to find their spot performing at LAN, but only 3 teams can make it, Takata.
That's true. We do have 4 finals total. This is the second one, so there'll be more opportunities, but the sooner the better. If you're players like Shark, Teeny, even Pablo and Chino, they already, you know, qualled, so they can play a lot more freely in these matches. And as finals goes on, there's going to be more duos in that same situation, which makes it that much scarier for the other teams trying to get that qual spot. Truly, Zynox, 191 points. They were 8th place going into this match, just 3 off being in qualifying range, about 30 points behind them. Now with Deemish Storm gone, this could be a massive match for them.
And that's exactly the opportunity they've kind of just been waiting to strike for. Not calling it hesitancy, but that little bit of passiveness. They're just waiting to ensure that they have the best possible setup for a deep endgame run here. Flixie, Chap, they are really going to have to go all out, not even just in this lobby, Takata, but also in Game 8 if they want any sort of opportunity. But if there is a duo with the fighting power behind them to do so, it's definitely Chap and Flixie.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, though. They are on that bottom half of the leaderboard, and to be honest, they're going to have to win this game. Good news is, like you said, anyone's going to do it. They got 5 eliminations already. Hopefully they can have a big end game, kind of get their hopes up a little bit, or increased. Shark Teeny playing it slow once again at the boom and base now. They've pulled zone. They're just going to stay here for as long as they can.
It's just like the main memo for Chap and Flixie, though, is just make it to the end game. The one time that we've really seen them have an end game run, I mean, they won the lobby. So it's just about getting to that stage. They've had a lot of issues with how some of the mid game has ended up for them, but anything goes. And it seems like they've definitely got a fire lit underneath them right now with those 5 early eliminations. Pretty solid loadouts here too. Good mobility, slurp juice. So they have the items that they need if they want to try and make a strong performance here. But there are so many other powerful contenders that they're going to have to deal with too. Just saw Yepko Panzer, Chino Pablo. Granted, it's probably in their favor for Chino Pablo Sharkantini to remain inside that top 3 of the leaderboard because it does just cause that overall extension for everyone else, since they are teams that are already confirmed for that LAN finals.
Zone, luckily enough, this time around isn't pulling towards the water, so hopefully we don't see a rough end game like we did previously. Vico Malabuca had it in a little late, but didn't get focused. Let's hope they don't go down early in the end game like the last match. They need a big game here to solidify themselves on that top half of the leaderboard.
Once Vico gets moving, though, I mean, what more is there that needs to be said? Even just look at their Div Finals performances. 2 weeks back-to-back of them repeating chap, though. This is bad news bears all around. Shots coming in from 3 different directions. All that material account that they spent time building up, it's all for naught as Chap will be knocked. Devastating scenes here right now for Flixie, and he's not going to have the opportunity to try and play for the revive, even with it being so much faster in reloads. It's just not a chance. A body also being brought back into Truly in Zynox's box. That's their space, that's their loot now. But Flixie as a solo, he's going to have to get it all done and then some. Meanwhile, Vico, Malabuca, they just continue trying to creep forward. It's not even about playing catch-up here, Takata. It's about just taking a lead firmly in their hands. They don't want it to come close. They want to be completely cemented inside of the qual position for LAN.
And they've got everything lined up to do so in this match. All they need to do is close it out. The Strokey Bevies opting to quickly get ahead of zone here. Will they build up, though, or just play a safer route? They are right behind that cutoff of qualifying, so they cannot afford to go down early here.
And that's where it becomes very difficult, I think, on the mental side of things for players, for these teams. You know, you don't want to overthink it, but at the same time, you don't want to overcommit. But if you hesitate just one moment too long, you've got to have some confidence in your plays. After all, if you want them to be successful, Sharkantini, just a team that exudes confidence at every single opportunity, though. Pixie Swizzy now applying a lot of good pressure onto Hallie and Lusha. Don't really know if they're fully aware of just how low Hallie even was in that instance, but they'll forfeit for the time being. Content to just have their own space claimed. Truly, Zynox starting to take a peek towards the high ground. It has been a strategy for them to look at height, but holding on to it is a whole different affair in a lobby like this.
Khan doing what he can to play it out as a solo. 220 points. They were the duo that was tied with Demish and Darm. Khan has a lot of weight on his shoulders here to get a big game. Vico Malabuca, though, both players looking healthy. Could have more mats, but all it takes is a quick refresh. Volko cringe. They've been spotted trying to get that free rotate, but Pixie, Swizzy, they're clearly aware of this. We mentioned it before, Pixie Swizzy, they were in the bottom half of the leaderboard, 18th place, I believe. But that victory royale brought them up to top 11, and if they're able to get a back-to-back, it's going to be exactly what they needed for the comeback.
That was big looks, though, for Vico and Malabuca. They were able to find an elimination, which means a little bit of cypher materials to work with, too. But now Swizzy, Pixie from overhead. Yapko in a very preposterous position right now. He's a solo, and he's got to keep trying to work his way through. These are his builds for right now, but there are just so many teams lurking nearby. Khan, very similar position, except even less health to work with. He'll be forced to play these medkits a little bit earlier than he's been hoping for. Does have shield potions to possibly utilize too, but Yapko just trying to break through. Zone closing in. Backside can only protect you for so long. Eventually, you're gonna have to clutch head on, and Yapko delivers, finds an elimination here. Needed that so badly. Gonna buy him just a little bit more mat count, a little bit more materials, a little bit more space to breathe.
so many solos playing right now. Malabuka, Yapko, Khan, all playing alone. Meanwhile, Pixie and Swizzy continue to hold on to height, but Yapko's gonna do what he can to stay ahead. Issue is running low on mats. All he's got is wood. Khan with a quick elimination, but he needs to pick up the full elim, unable to do so. Yapko now continuing his wrath as a solo.
Just watching the body roll down the hill, knowing that that siphon could have been enough to just get him one place further. But Chino, Pablo, they've got no time to waste. They're gonna look to just overtake this frontside low position. And Yapko, 4 builds remain. Can he find another shot? He's got the purple sentinel. He just needs to connect it. A little bit of Flowberry Fizz. Trying to gauge whether or not it's going to be Malabuka that might be landing right on top of his noggin, but Yapko will fall. No more points can be secured now for that duo, and Swizzy Pixie all along inside the clouds here, just looking down at the rest of the lobby, and Shark, Teeny, familiar scenes here now as they look for an elimination onto Gino. But they're not going to be able to find it just yet. Pablo can't go for the revive. He's just doing everything in his power to even try and stay alive for right now. Slurp does come out, but it's not going to be enough. He will eventually be claimed here, and Akira just powering through.
Sharktini, though, they said, we can do height, we can do low, it doesn't matter, we can do it all, as they continue to push down through the dirt. Akira on the other side. Will they knock on his door, though, as Swizzy Pixie continue to hold height, looking to get the back-to-back, as Shark now big pump onto Howley, big pump onto Akira, he gets 2 now, a 2 versus 2, height versus low. Swizzy Pixie, they need this win from the bottom half of the leaderboard, climbed up to the middle section, and now if they get this victory royale, it's putting them closer and closer to qualifying range. But Shark and Teeny, they're not gonna leave it easy for them.
But it's been flip-sided. Swizzy gonna be sent packing. The shockwaves just throwing him way too deep in the storm, but it doesn't even matter. Swizzy will connect. Shark and Teeny. We thought for a moment that we were gonna see the upset, but Swizzy and Pixie, when they needed it most, yet again, they find their victory royale. Frankie, let's see what you gotta say.
We were discussing how much Pixie and Swizzy needed to have a fantastic game after their last victory royale, and they've gone and done the back-to-back. They were 50 points behind contention for a LAN spot, but now they're going to be feeling very satisfied indeed, Coach Harry.
Yeah, I mean, I said it might have been too little too late. They've shut me up. They know exactly what to do, right? They found the formula, you know. It doesn't matter whether it's this late into the tournament. Take height early, and they're holding it so much better than they did in heats. Even if they get chopped out, or even if a team tries to come up for it, they're still managing to stay on top. And, I mean, I thought more teams would go for it, but they're able to just hold on, and then when it gets to the final moments, the composure that even when they got shockwaved on by Teeny and Shark, they just med-miss in Storm, re-shockwave themselves, and clutch out the win.
Yeah, I mean, what a game for these guys. It's funny because before their first win, you did make a joke, right, when we were in the green room. You were like, yeah, I mean, if they just win like back-to-back games, then yeah, they're probably in a chance to call, right? And I sort of laughed at you going, yeah, I don't know about that, man. Like back-to-back games, I don't think that can happen. But they've already done 2 out of 3. So it's not out of the realms of possibility. Again, we talked about the talent these two have. They've finally started to figure things out. And I think if you've been watching competitive EU recently, there's been examples of teams having these late resurgences, right? Vico Malabuka just yesterday in the Div Cup final did similar. So it's good to see these guys picking things up now.
We'll be talking about the leaderboard after this break, so don't go anywhere because change is afoot.
2 teammates have his back. Where's Nash? Gets the drop on the Marion. Stays alive. They're targeting out Vanya. 3v1.
Welcome back to the Reload Elite Series. There's just one game remaining before we find out the next 3 duos who'll be heading to the LAN Championships in August. And there is everything to play for right now. Let's take a look at the leaderboard. Swizzy and Pixie did get back-to-back victory royales. You can see that has taken them into 4th position, up a whopping 7 places. They're currently needing to pull everything together and keep it clenched to get themselves another big finish. But we should take a look at number 6. Howley and Lucia have been particularly threatening in the last few games, 11-2K, and they are the biggest threat to Vico, Malabuka, and Swizzy and Pixie's chances right now.
Yeah, I mean, these guys just on the outside. And I mean, it has been quite the resurgence for them, Harry, right? They started off the day incredibly slow. The last 3 games, 1 win, 3rd place, 4th place. They've changed the approach. We've known these guys to be a height team. They've been able to dominate playing on mid and low. I'm really, crossing my fingers hoping they could do it, because I feel like this would be a great surprise team to come through and make it.
Yeah, you just didn't expect it. Like the same way we were talking about Fade and Khan, another team who is right on the cusp of qualifying to the LAN, and they're another team who no one really expected. And you can just see how close it is from 10th upwards. Only 45 points towards the qualification, and you might think, oh, that's quite a lot. Swizzy and Pixie were 50 points off going into that game, right? So one big game, if you're in the top 10, can be the difference between qualifying to the LAN and missing out.
Coach Harry, if you could be talking to Vico and Malabuka right now, what would you be saying to them? Because we saw Mali challenging for height as a solo in that last game, and that doesn't feel like a risk he should be making in this next game.
My advice would be get away from Chap and Flixie. They're a team who need to catch up, and if you know Chap and Flixie, if they need to catch up, they're not just going to try and win the game. They're going to try and drop 20 elims. They're trying to get as much as possible from this game. They're not going to go down without a fight. So if I was then, run away as fast as you can and just try and get yourself into the end game where you can show what you're made of, to be honest.
Look, when it comes to final games in EU of late, there's been no team better than Vico Malabuka. They've stepped up every single time, no matter how rough the start to the tournament's been. There is no bigger time than now. The whole world is watching Vico Malabuka. What will you do?
Well, let's find out. It's game number 8.
Thank you for setting the stage. They are the literal cutoff at 249 points, Vico Malabuka, but also, we already said it, shout out to Swizzy Pixie. They were literally the bottom of the leaderboard, 18th place. They jump up to 11th with a victory royale, and now they jump up to 4th with a back-to-back win. Can they close this one out? All is up to this last game.
Yeah, Swizzy, Pixie, they caught a vision or a vibe from what Vico and Malabuka have been doing these Div Cup finals. Takata, just the final hour ringers, but the job is not done. There's still so much work that needs to take place here, because as Harry highlighted, top 10 closer than ever before. So game 8, let's see who's got it.
Some of the names right outside the cutoff: Howley, Lucia, Khan, Faded, Beamish, Darm, Fastroki, Bevies, Akira Kararma. These are all names that have a shot of taking that qual spot to the $2.5 million championship LAN, but kicking it off with straight action. Fastroki goes down, Truly picks up 1. As the pressure is on.
Potentially ended for some of these duos, depending on how they fare. No one completely eliminated just yet, but the first strikes reigning in Truly's favor. That's always got to be a great sensation, but there is still so much left to unfold here. Stilt Town. This might be the calmest we've ever seen it, Takata.
Yeah, 100%. Pixie, Swizzy, if anything, are on fire right now. They're ready for the contestation. They've had it all day at Stilt Town. It's been a party, but they are the ones hosting it, as now the pressure, lays a bit low, despite there being another duo close by. I'm curious to see how aggressive they're going to play this one out.
You could see Malabuka was by himself, so you know that Vico is just being an agent of destruction somewhere across the map. Whether or not he's successful in his adventures for finding those additional elimination points, only time will tell, but as of right now, Human Base is all Khan and Faded Pigeon. how many people would have had this duo as a potential for one of those land spot quals, Takata. I mean, it just seems like there are so many teams within striking range, and every single one of them being so aware of it. Glubshi frags, but it's going to be Pixie and Swizzy that take down Malabuka. We'll have to wait. One duo has been confirmed removed from this lobby, Takata. Whether or not Swizzy's going to be able to stay alive, only Pixie will be able to have the solution for that. But lurking nearby, saw Bevies and Glubshi. Don't know if he's aware of the fact he might even potentially get pinched here. Pixie's just trying to buy a little bit of time, just wants to let Swizzy touch down. A whole lot of resources having already been claimed, though, at Stilt Town. And fortunately for Swizzy, Pixie was able to just defend the space long enough. Glubshi Prax not really comfortable with trying to go for an all-out brawl there.
Yeah, it'd be devastating to go down off spawn after getting back-to-back wins, but Glubshi hit a nice shot onto Swizzy. Pixie was low, too. That got a little too close for comfort as we switch on over to the north side by Steamy Stacks. Pablo getting rebooted back in. Chap Flixie, 3 elims on the board, looking to at least get a bit of that prize pool.
The analyst could not have said it better, though. We see 3 eliminations already for Chap and Flixie. If anyone is ever going to just throw it or lay it all on the line, it will be that duo. They need a huge performance here. Teeny, Shark, they're going to be crashing down on Kashi and Firen instead, looking to wipe out this duo entirely. All Teeny has to do is connect one more shot. He's got Shark as well, just to provide a little bit more of that aggressive maneuvering. But Kashi just sliding every which way. He's held on long enough. Crash Pad gonna send him right back to where he doesn't want to be, though. The most unfortunate sequence of events here. But at least he stayed alive long enough for Firen to come back down from the reboot.
It looked like a training range. Like you knew he was about to bounce up in the sky. Shark Tina were just waiting for it to happen so they could laser him. But hey, like you said, it was enough time for his teammate to get back in it. So pretty good so far. Deemish, though, goes down. Good news is Darm's still up. So potential reload coming into play as Chap and Flixie continue to push everybody in sight.
This is the worst duo you could encounter right now, because Chap and Flixie, they know that the only option they have is to just rack up as many eliminations as possible with a strong placement finish. And that initial elim onto Deemish, sending him into the reboot cycle when every single team is just so desperate for whatever points they can muster up. It is so ridiculous now for Darm and Deemish, because it was right there. Their chances of being at the land, Takata, almost slipping through their fingers right now. It's Glubshi, another elimination. Everybody kind of just hunting each other.
Yeah, this is going to be a true final match of the finals. It's what you love to see when it's this close. Teeny Shark so far, though, have solidified a good spot in first. However, they are just about 20 points behind Yapko and Panzer, so any of these eliminations are going to help them get that $10,000 difference between first and second. And Kurama Akira being potentially on the receiving end is not where you want to be, as both players now eliminated. They are now knocked out of these finals.
A bit dastardly there from Shark and Teeny, but they were not going to give any kind of room there for Akira and Kurama. Wiping out your competition, wiping out strong teams that could potentially threaten your LAN performance. That seems to be a big emphasis there for Shark and Teeny. Is Yapko, Panzer getting a little bit fraggy here at Steamy Stacks. They found Josh and Wavy. They've already got 3 eliminations too, and it's going to be Zynox who falls as well. Truly still a little bit off in the distance here. 2 different solos from 2 different representative teams, and Yapko, Panzer in a very commanding spot right now, but it's cringe, and Volko looking to strike back against Chino. Pablo missing in action. Chino will be forced to bring things to a little bit of a halt here, but it's the same case scenario for Cringe. He still needs Volko to touch back down from the reboot.
Got a bit of loot though from his fallen teammate, and now spent enough time to have his teammate reload back in. Going against Chino and Pablo though, it's tough. They haven't played too aggressive in the early game throughout the day, but now they're hungry. As currently they're sitting in that third place spot comfortably. They don't want to lose it early on, so we can see how Chino is actually able to pick up Volko.
Pretty even battle between some of these duos. They're just looking to go toe-to-toe with each other. Really excited to see what Chap and Flixie have been up to later on down the line, though, because they were just getting so aggressive so early on here at Takata. That all-or-nothing mentality, feast or famine, is just so dangerous to run into. And Bevies for Strokey, not sure if they realize that Shark and Teeny are actually as close by as they appear, but they just wanted that slurp truck after all. And Panzer, Yapko, truly sitting idly by, waiting for his duo. This is, I think, one of our greener duos for this level of lobby, Takata. And if they could find a way to really just go sicko mode in this last lobby and lock in for a big performance, because they are right there, Takata. It is truly very much within the realm of possibility for the duo to actually confirm a spot to land.
Yeah, it was looking so strong for them too. They got top 10, I believe, 4 games in a row until the last one where they got 15. But hopefully they can make something happen this time around. Yapko Panzer on the other end, second place, but it is $10,000 more to get first place. So not only are they trying to hold on to their qual spot, but quite comfortably doing so, they more want that first place finish. Teeny Shark, though, are the ones that are currently blocking them off, holding on to the crown, looking to get their back-to-back first place finishes in this Reload Elite Series finals.
This just seems like such a foreign concept right now, but Teeny and Shark, I mean, they're playing exclusively for the dead side rotation at this stage, Takata, because, as you already mentioned, it's just first place that they have on their mind. They've already got their spot locked in for land. They don't have to worry about dishing out anything else other than, you know, eliminations, because it's just, that's going to be the real difference maker for whether or not they're actually able to take over the first place on the leaderboard. But Pixie, Swizzy, not out of it just yet. Chap will fall. Crazy shot there from Pixie. No chance to get away. Flixie is hoping that he can create just a little bit of space here, but Pixie and Swizzy, they know exactly what's at stake for Chap and Flixie. They're looking to shut this one down. They might even be able to secure even more elimination points too, just off the reboots.
Yeah, that was a huge shot that came through. They're only a little under 20 points behind Howley and Lusha, or right outside qualifying range. So they need to get to the end game here and have a decent performance.
Are you looking at what I'm looking at? And Vico's
that is
loadout right now. The lobby is not safe. I will leave it at that, okay? I really want to see what Malabuka and Vico are able to cook up, but that is a crazy exotic to pick up for the 8th and final lobby of the day. All they need to do is make it to the end game now, Takata.
I'm all for it, though. I'd love to see it come through. The Strokey Bevies, unfortunately, on the receiving end of a bit of aggression here. They are in 9th place, so all they want is to make it to this end game and have a shot to play it out. For Dodge, getting a bit focused here, hopefully, as a teammate close by.
Pixie Swizzy boxed up temporarily. Chap on the horizon. Everybody kind of just taking their time. These last few moments before we start to dictate some of the outcomes for some of these teams. When your top 10 is as tightly knit, no real huge point disparities, it just becomes so feasible for anyone and everyone to get involved here. And Vico, Mali, high ground.
This is the second time they've done that fist pad for 7th zone right before the one that pulls into the zone. So it's worked out quite well. You always have that risk of getting focused if you get cracked or kind of get the eyes on you. But I mean, it's worked now in these final 2 matches. They've claimed a dominant position. Now we're going to have the opportunity to take those shots on players rotating in zone. So hopefully they can capitalize on it and not only maintain their spot, but go even further up the leaderboard.
Josh and Wavy gonna start picking their way forward. All eyes on Pablo Chino for right now, though. Scoping out the rest of the competition, recognizing there's some teams in the low ground trying to pass them by. Teeny, Shark, they'll also begin making their way forward, but Vico and Malabuka, they seem very confident and just wanting to take this early high ground. They know. Ooh, Deemish so incredibly low there, but Darm gonna be able to play enough of a distraction factor. It might come at such a steep cost here now, though, because Pixie and Swizzy kind of recognize the fact that this is an isolated player and there's nowhere that Darm could possibly escape to. Chap and Flixie on the other end of his walls are going to be the ones to get credit for that elimination. But it's not like Chap and Flixie are all in that better of a position. Even after finding that elim, they've still got to break through. Yapko, great scenes here. Not so much for Gonzo, though. Getting eliminated and knowing that it's just going to be Pradaj having to clutch up for this final lobby.
Lusha Howley, a lot of weight on their shoulders here. Now, 10th place being eliminated, 8th place being eliminated. Them being 1 placement off the cutoff to qualify to the $2.5 million land. They need to have a big match here as Vico takes out Cringe, continuing to maintain that height from the start of this zone without a single team contesting them so far. But be careful, Teeny Shark, they might have their eyes on it.
Malabuka just making sure to stay 1 step ahead, though. Good connections. Now it's Shark underneath, secondary height. He wants to start cranking upwards. He's gonna wait for Teeny. And they're sizing up Vico and Malabuka on the high ground right now. They might not be the only ones either. Glovesheet Prax. Problems in the backside of zone, though. That's going to be Swizzy and Pixie meeting their maker. Vico, Malabuka, we don't have time to think about it because it's all about the high ground control.
Devastating finish, but for Vico Malabuka, it could be bright as they continue to get on ahead. They have more than enough mats, more than enough loot, but the placement points have just started kicking in. They still have a long ways to go.
Shark, Teeny, another solo just lies ahead of them. Kashi is hoping that he can just stay alive 1 moment longer. Did seem like potentially maybe Firen's with him. No, Firen is still with him, so at least they can work together. But Yapko and Panzer, all they want is a lead, but they're not going to be able to escape here. Yapko is going to now have to wait and pray that Panzer is going to be able to just play his own life. Still, out of this duo so far here today, Panzer has come up big time in multiple solo play scenarios. Can he do it yet again? Yeah, he has a decent material count. He's got 2 shield potions to work with. And that mythic revolver, but at the same time, it's just not gonna be an easy feat by any means. Flixie Chap overhead. They want height. Vico Malabuka forced to commit to the backside of zone now, taking up a little bit of storm even. That Memphis grenade gonna save them, but Chap and Flixie, they are going all out warfare with this lobby.
They get shot down though. Vico picks up 1, he picks up 2. This could be it. The Siphon now has put him back to 100 HP. A bit of time to pop those shields, but Zynox is going to be the one that's claimed high. Issue is, Chap is not gonna let it last long. 6 elims on Flixie, 2 on Chap. They've now overthrown.
That looked like it was going to be the end there for Chap. I'm not even kidding in the slightest, but now he might meet his demise. Vico Malabuka with a vengeance, resurging back towards the high ground. The grapplers gonna help them control the overhead. Lusha still just barely managed to juke his way through, tarping, but he's out of materials. He's gonna be forced to drop, and it's Chap from overhead. Never saw it coming, but Lusha pays the price of his life. Now Panzer, deep backside of zone, still trying to make it happen. He knows what's on the line. It's a first place position on the leaderboard. He needs a siphon though. He needs a refresh. Anything and everything at this stage could make the difference here, but Vico and Malabuka are relentless. They are not letting up.
A $10,000 shot for Panzer if he's able to connect it onto Shark and Teeny. They're on the other side of the door. He hits the first one, unable to get the knock though, as he's forced to play aggressive without any mats. Shark now doing what he can to stay up, but Chino gets knocked down. Panzer continuing to grapple. He goes down. Malabuka now still up height.
But look at the way that Malabuka is played, but Shark, huge connection shot there, elimination onto Faded. Also got to make sure that he gets to utilize some of this slurp too, but Shark, Teeny, shockwaves overhead, Vico in their sights. Vico's not in their clutches just yet. He still has Malabuka with him, and Shark is going to be on the receiving end here. Vico coming out on top. Can Teeny get it done? No, he cannot. Vico delivering yet another all-star performance here. Vico, Malabuka, these guys, why are they only allowed to win when it's the last two lobbies, Takata? I just cannot figure it out, but Vico and Malabuka, they definitely secured their spot for the LAN quals here, Takata. Impressive scenes. Analysts, let me hear it.
I mean, Vico and Malabuka, they know how to give everyone in the lobby a heart attack and everyone on the broadcast desk too. Finally, we're seeing this duo that had not the best start to the year prove themselves. They belong on LAN, and finally, we know we're going to see 11.
When the lights were brightest, they showed up, and that's what matters. They've been doing it so consistently late. Taco's right. I don't know what it is about these guys where it's just, yeah, we'll just rock up when it's the last game and show what we can do. But it must be enough now for them to be in LAN contention. I mean, look, we said we were going to watch them today. We said there was pressure on them, Harry, and they stepped up when it mattered.
Of course. I mean, when you do have a spot like Slurpee on Con, there are high expectations, not only just because of that, and the caliber of players they are as well, right? And look, they can have all the pressure they want on them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to faze them, to be honest. And yeah, I don't know what it is about them. I don't know how they keep on doing it. I want to see if they're able to do this similar type of clutching on LAN, and hopefully, or luckily, we are going to be seeing that.
And the big thing now, right, we've obviously been tracking this story of Vico and Malabuka in EU contesting versus not contesting at Slurpee. We already know one team who's qualified from Slurpee going to that LAN is Pete and Poyo, so I'm going to be waiting to see whether these guys really can step up to the plate and say we want to contest those guys, or will they look for somewhere else now that they still have a bit of time to figure it out. Regardless of what it is, there is one thing for sure, Vico and Malabuka are them guys.
Let's see the leaderboard and find out who will be joining our already qualified duos at the LAN finals. Congratulations, first of all, to Shark and Teeny for doing the back-to-back and winning again. Another $30,000 going their way. But Yapko and Panzer, what a performance. Vico and Malabuka, and finally, Khan and Faded. No one had them on their bingo card going into this one. But what a performance by these two, Coach Harry.
Yeah, this is the beauty of EU, right? You know, it's not like other regions where the teams at the top are always going to stay the same. There's always an underrated talent or a team that no one talks about who gets close, or in this case, qualifies to the LAN. Last time it was Twek and Midra, and this time it was Faded and Khan. And to be honest, they showed it today how capable they are in these lobbies. They didn't feel like they were out of place at all. And for someone like Faded, who, to be honest, for a lot of his career was seen as like just a streamer, just someone who, you know, he talks about he got a clip on Mongrel, and that's basically all he got his fame from. But now he ends up in this situation here where now he's going to the LAN as one of the best teams on Europe, and it's exciting to see what they can show.
Yeah, very happy for those guys. I think when you look at the way they played, they made waves. It's not like they've just snuck in, right? In many of these games, they were one of the biggest threats for teams trying to play mid and low ground. So it's good to see them. Hopefully they can bring that energy to LAN, right? I want to see them rise to the occasion there.
Well, let's see the 6 duos who have qualified already to LAN for the Reload Elite Series. It's really exciting to see some big names up there. You've already mentioned Peterbot and Poyo will be going toe-to-toe with our European heroes, and of course Cold and Rapid. But oh my goodness, this is looking like such an exciting event already, Harry, and we still have 2 more qualifiers to go in Europe.
That's the beauty of the reload. Only the best of the best are going to qualify, right? And it's going to be such a stacked lobby. And I'm just excited to see what off-spawn situations we had. You touched on it there, Levin, about Slurpee, but there's so many other spots that teams might look to go. And, you know, when you get to the global stage, you get to see fights that you never see before, and that's always so exciting.
Yeah, so much talent on that board. Look, I'm not trying to flame some of our Fortnite creators, but last year when we had the Pro-Am, there were a couple teams in there that were nuts. You know, we had some great pros, and, you know, some of the creators, you knew the level's not quite there. When you look at the lobby list already shaping up for the LAN, so much talent. We ain't got duds. We've just got talent, and that's what I want to see. Looking forward to seeing who steps up.
So we've got a few more spots going Europe's way, I should say. In fact, we've got 6 more spots going Europe's way. We've got 2 more qualifiers. Who do you want to see make it to LAN, Levin?
Oh, there's quite a few. There's some people who haven't even made the finals who I want to see them actually even get a chance to fight to qualify for LAN. I think the one team that I was sad sort of just missed out there would have to be Swizzy Pixie, right? They were putting on the show at a point. The storyline, the momentum felt like it was there. So hopefully we see them bounce back.
Harry?
I mean, I want to see the global champions, Queasy. We need to see him. We need to see him in these finals lobbies. You know, when it comes to these global stages, he has one of the best records, if not the best record on a global stage. And as a biased European fan, I need to see him on the stage because I know he's getting a good performance.
Oh, Harry, you mentioned global stage. Did you know that we're setting up a global stage in May at the PSD Bank Dome in Düsseldorf for the 30th and 31st of May?
You said something about it and something about the tickets as well.
Yeah, they're going on sale at 10 a.m. Central European time tomorrow. So that's 9 a.m. if you're in the UK like us lot. So why don't you follow FN Competitive on Twitter, and then you'll get a notification as to the link you need to be there with us and hopefully with Queasy and the best players in the world. We're so excited to see you in Düsseldorf. We're so excited for the return of FNCS, by the way, if I'm allowed to say that on RAS, because that's coming back next in April. Then we've got our next qualifier for the Fortnite Reload Elite Series. We've got a final one of these coming your way in June as well. So mark your calendars, friends. We cannot wait for all this action that's coming your way. We cannot wait to see who else is going to qualify for the LAN. And we can't wait, in fact, to see the next 2 duos qualifying from North America. That's going to be happening on your feeds in around about 2 hours. Make sure you're following and you'll get a notification when we're live again with Zeke and the gang. Harry, have you enjoyed yourself?
It's been amazing, thank you. It's been, the best part was, I would say you guys, but the finals, you know, the competition, the players, you know, how close it came towards the end. And that's what we love about Europe, right, is how close the competition can be.
What a debut from you, son. Honestly, what a debut. This guy is unbelievable. So give him his flowers. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for watching. Stick around for NAC. And right now from us, well, it's time to sound that horn. Good day.